Doris Stokes is certainly Britain's most famous medium and has travelled all over the world. Until about 1978, Doris was relatively unknown, except within spiritualism. She then went to Australia, was an astonishing success all over that continent. When she came back, Doris Stokes really took off, so to speak.
All my makeup's running pouring out the corner.
Spiritualists say the dead do survive, but it is correct to contact the so-called dead. I point out, we can't bring the dead back. The dead come back because they want to come back. They come back because of ties of love and affection. Orthodox clerics cannot give that comfort. All they can do is to tell a grieving couple what was written down in the Bible 2,000 years ago. A medium like Doris, on the other hand, can say to a couple, don't worry, your child is alive. Come and sit with me, and I will try and prove your child is still alive in the spirit world.
She actually brought my son, who died, to me, and she really was phenomenal. Every single thing she did and every single thing she did for me was just absolutely wonderful. As far as I was concerned, my son had died, and that was the end. And she showed me that there was another life and there is another world, and it was, for me, the comfort was indescribable.
Will you please give a very, very warm welcome to Doris Stokes, the lady with voices in her ear.
Sorry about that. I thought I'd better apologise in case I have to I seize up, in case they have to lift me out the chair when I go off to intermission. Hello everyone, how are you? Might I ask you why you've come this evening? Well, to see me. Why? Pardon? How many new people are here this evening? Bless your heart. How many new people are here this evening? Are you expecting me to climb up the wall or swing on the lights? Look, no horns. I'm just going to sit here and gossip with you for a little while until the voices start to come through, and then hopefully we have a three-way conversation. Now, you're not going to be afraid to join in, are you? You know? Hello, everybody. That's better. You know, when you go up north, you get such a roar, and I've had to teach the Southerners not to be afraid of me, to learn to mix in, but can't you tell we're down in the East End? Because nobody's afraid to open their mouths and say, hi, Doris, because that's what it's all about. Now, wait a minute, love. I've got, I tried to tune in. I want to be 1, 2, 3, 4. Somewhere in the back, in the middle of the auditorium, towards the back. Have I got somebody there that knows the surname of Rogers? Here we are, love. Could you come down so I can see you, love? Hello, my love. Do you know the surname of Rogers, love?
Yes.
Spirit side. Oh, I forgot to tell you, when I'm doing this, it means our side of life. Thumb over my shoulder means spirit side. Until we get started, love, it's anybody's guess. Because all the voices come in at once. You're a bit nervous of me, love?
Slightly.
Don't be afraid, love. I've got a man here that went over quickly with a heart attack, love.
Not exactly heart attack.
Pardon?
Cancer.
Let me hear your voice, love.
Cancer.
Oh, it's in his lungs, is it?
Yeah, well, glands.
I thought it was a heart attack. He did have a heart attack at the end, he tells me. But my chest hurt me very badly. Don't worry about it, love. Where does the Rogers fit in? You're not Rogers, are you? No. His name is Rogers?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were right, love, when I said spirit side. You see, when I go like this, love, it means the name I'm talking to is Mr. Rogers' spirit side. Who's Bill? Living. She's having to think. She's very young, love. Try and stick to the family. Who's Joan? It isn't, darling, it's John. You know, because the light's there and he's very weak. Who's Tony? Doesn't mean the things he does it.
A person like Doris Stokes has to attune herself by raising her consciousness. Also the cooperation of the spirit communicators who lower their, shall I say, frequency, for want of a better word. They lower their frequency. The medium increases her sensitivity, so the two unite, and we do get a form of communication. That's why communication between spirit person and physical person is always a very difficult process.
Sometimes it's clearer than others, and sometimes, and I can get the different accents. It's like being a telephone exchange. Sometimes I get the lines crossed and then I get in an awful mess. And then that's when you hear me say, I've made a right pig's ear of that one. Clear the wires and let me start again. But if it's right, then they'll keep giving it to me. I still keep hearing the same message. So then I have to work at it until I finally got it right. The little girl lives near the Green Man. Now let's separate that vibration if we can. Do you know Mary, love? No, the lady I'm talking to here. Do you know Mary's spirit side, love?
Yes.
Now hold it.
I know Mary, yeah.
And Tony belongs in the family too?
Yeah, on the spirit side, yeah.
Tony went quickly?
Yes, he did.
He was a very young boy?
Yes, he was.
Now, Tony's talking about a pub called the Green Man.
It probably was. He knew a few pubs, yeah.
It's all right, Tony. Yes. Lovey, was his neck broken?
Pardon?
Was his neck broken?
Well, he had head injuries with a motorbike accident.
Yes. My head and my neck seem to got it. I didn't like to ask him, you know. It just, as it comes in close, I feel the impact. He said, yes, I never went home again, darling.
No, he didn't.
I was on my way home and I never got
right,
there.
Yes.
Is he the baby, darling?
He was, did you say?
No, is he the baby of the family?
Yes, my young brother, yeah.
Because he said, I'm the baby, you
That's
know, Doris.
right.
I was very spoiled. And
yes, he was.
thought a lot of, I was the baby. She's my big sister.
That's right.
And it's the first time he's made it back, Lovey.
Yeah.
And he said, I've waited a long time. Just a minute, Tony, don't go. Who's Michael he's talking
My
about?
cousin.
Michael, he's been to see Michael, our side of life.
Yes.
Yes, Tony, wait a minute, love. Yes. You were thrown. He said I was thrown, you know,
Yes,
Doris.
he was.
So if you're worrying about it, he said, will you tell her that I didn't feel... The last impression I got was, oh, my God.
That's right. Yes.
And over,
Yes.
and that was it.
Yes.
He said, but my face was all right.
Yes, it was.
Everybody could look at me.
That's right.
And he said, don't you think I'm a handsome fellow? He's got a great sense of humour.
Yes, he has.
How the hell does Doris know who's going to be there? How does she know where they're going to sit? She couldn't possibly cheat. She gives survival evidence to hundreds of people every year. Now, if Doris were to cheat, she would have to have a whole network of people, an army of accomplices, to find out minute, intimate details about the spirit communicators who are going to prove their survival via her.
An inexperienced medium is looking for every clue and will seize upon that clue. So they will, in fact, enhance that. They will try to encourage the sitter to say a little bit more, a few extra words, or to give a little bit of information away by asking subtle questions, you know. But with an experienced medium, and let's face it, Doris has been medium since she was a child, but with an experienced medium, instinctively they know what they're searching for. Instinctively they know what they want to achieve.
Little Daniel, who's little Daniel? Okay, love, somebody, has there been a birthday with little Daniel? We'll be there in a minute, Pat, yes. I don't know about Robinson or Roberts. Surname, where are we? Okay, Pat, hold it a minute, we'll be there in a minute. Come on, love, let's all join in, eh?
Yeah.
Come on, love, pick up.
I've got a Daniel.
Little Daniel.
Very little.
You know, baby Daniel. Did he have to go back into hospital, love?
Yes. Yeah.
Aw.
Can you hear me?
Come Come on, let me hear your voice.
Yes, he had to go back into hospital.
But he's all right now, love.
No. Well, he might be all right on your side, but
Pardon?
we've lost him.
Yes,
We lost him.
that's what they're saying, he's all right now, love. And they said, we've brought little Daniel. And he went home, and then he had to go back into the hospital. And he never went home again. But he said he's all right now. And he's about 3 now, lovey.
Yes, he would be.
I can see him. He's got auburn hair, love.
Yes, he has.
Yes, he's here, looking at the flowers. Yes, Daniel, you can, love. He says, can I have some flowers for my mum? So when you go tonight, lovey, will you take some flowers? Who's
Yeah,
Lynn?
he wasn't my baby.
No, but you know his mum,
Oh, yes, yeah.
don't you? No, he didn't. I didn't say
No,
to you. He
no.
said, can I have some flowers for my mum? Because she'll never believe I'm here, and he's a beautiful child. Just a minute, Daniel, yes. He had a defect, darling,
That's
in his
right.
heart.
Mm.
And they tried to repair it,
Yeah.
and it didn't work. But he's grown up for nearly 3, he said, and he's
Yes.
talking away, and he knows I give the flowers away to where the children are, you see, because I had all the spirit children meet.
Now, it's true, a lot of the details do seem trite and trivial. But when you're dead, how do you prove you're still alive? Now, in my view, you can only do that by giving a lot of personal details that are relevant only to you.
Sometimes they tell me things can't repeat in public, and I'm probably going, no, I couldn't say that, you see. I mean, I've had a lady come back and said, and tell my daughter to make up her mind she's got 2 men living with her. One's on days and one's on nights. And he said, that actually happened. What could you do? And he said, and I'm going, I don't think I could say that, love. Who's Elizabeth?
My mother.
Yeah. She's done what? You knocked a wall down, Levy. Well, not you, but you've had a wall knocked down.
I have.
And what went wrong? It was knocked it in the wrong place or something. It all had to be shored up.
No, we just took it away in the end.
They took the whole thing away, but
Yeah.
you was going to have a party. It all went wrong, didn't it, love?
Yes.
The saying said, and do you know, she had what a mess, they said. She had a wall knocked down and it all went wrong, and in the finish, whatever you planned to do, it all had to be scrapped. And they're laughing away because when you got the tiles for your floor, you did so much and then you hadn't got enough.
Not enough glue, that's right.
And you had to go racing off to the
Yeah.
shops. And
Yeah.
he said, and there the pub stood.
Yeah.
They'd move, wait for her to come back with the glue. He said, I cleared off till it was all finished, he said.
It normally did.
But you know, love, it's only just, it may sound trivia, but you've never seen me in your life before, have you, love?
You?
Yes.
I have seen you once before.
But I've never worked with you
No,
before.
no, never.
And I've never spoken to you before, have
No.
I? So I couldn't possibly know
No.
all the things about the wall coming down unless they were actually telling me. So you've got to know that they're living somewhere for them to tell me these things.
Yeah.
And I remember so vividly when I was a young medium, I wanted to make a big impression, you see. I used to think I was marvellous. Can you believe that? People told me I was marvellous, and I believed I was. I was great Doris Stokes, the medium. But I used to sometimes lose contact, and everything would go off. I'd stand there, and I didn't know what to do. So one day I asked a top medium from London, and he told me to jot pieces down that I heard around the place. And he said, and if you lose contact, you just throw a bit out, you see. So I went in the loo, and I scribbled some bits down and put it in my hymn book, and went on. I was going great guns, and suddenly, woof, everything went off. So nothing dawned. I opened the hymn book, and the paper had gone. It just disappeared, just gone. And I thought, oh, dear, dear. So with nothing daunted, I started to make up. And I got myself into an awful mess. Oh, dear. But the next big show, I did it again. And never, ever before my God, I've never cheated or tried to pull anything since. Hello, my love.
Hello.
I'd just like to know that if you state before you die that you'd like to donate certain parts of your body, and when you die they remove these parts, when you get into the spirit world, does it affect you?
Well, I hope not, love. I've had so many parts cut off, I've hope we've got them all labelled. No, honestly, that's joking. No, love. Everything is complete. So don't worry about that, lovey. Mind, I don't mind. I've signed all my bits and pieces, what I've got left, away. Whether it be any good to anybody, I sincerely hope so, love. And I wish everybody here tonight, especially the youngsters, would carry a kidney donor card and a card for their eyes, because it is important. Give somebody else a chance.
Fine, so perhaps we can have the next point put to Doris, please.
Is the concept of time on the other side the same as we understand it here?
Well, it is when we first go, dear, because we're the same people as when we go over. So we have morning, afternoon and evening, and it takes us a little while to adjust.
But what happens to this 6-year-old child who continues to grow?
Oh,
40,
no, they
50?
have to go to school, dear. They're not very happy about that. There's nurseries for the babies. There's schools for the children. There's schools for the young adults. There's halls of learning for people like me, and halls of music. There's even a waiting place for the babies that go back before they're born, and the babies that are sent back that's aborted. And they're kept in little capsules till they're full term. Then they're born into the spirit world, and the spirit mother takes charge of them. And they're brought back to their natural parents here.
The spirit world simply interpenetrates our own physical world. But because the frequency of the etheric world is so high, we cannot register it with our physical senses or our physical touch. Therefore, the spirit world or etheric world does not interfere with our physical world. So that is where the spirit world is. It actually interpenetrates our own physical world.
I've got a lady here that had a cerebral hemorrhage, love, a stroke.
Yes. Oh.
You know, no, it's Rachel and Rebecca, and I think it's your mum.
Yes.
She said, it's me, dear. She said, I didn't quite know how to do it. All she could think about was Rachel and Rebecca. She adored those kids, didn't she?
Yeah, well, she never actually saw them in this life.
She adores them, love, she does. And she said, I just wanted her to know that I know Rachel and Rebecca. And she said, she's heard you saying, if only my mum could see them. If only mum could see our lovely grandchildren. Well, I've come back to tell you I do know them. I've watched them born, and I've watched them grow up. And I'm watching them grow up. Yes, darling, I do. Who's Andrew? I still keep getting this Andrew. It doesn't mean a thing to anybody. Andrew's spirit side, love.
Yes, I've just been talking to you downstairs.
Wait a minute. Oh, that was, the wanted proof. All right, keep listening, love, because I pop little bits and pieces in. Just a minute, darling. I'm not sure about that. Something to do with nursing or hospitals or something.
Yes, I'm a nurse.
Oh, that's it. Now we're getting somewhere. Come on. She's not quite sure of me at all, lovey. It's a short name, only 3 letters. She's given me that Ada, Ivy, Amy, Eva. Only 3, it's not, it's May, and it's the lady in red the light's gone over. Somebody called May, spirit side, lovey.
Oh, no. Yes, I have got somebody in the spirit world, May.
She said, no, the light's gone over. I just want, they're all popping in and out. But have you tried to work on 5 telephone lines at once? Michael? That's what I was doing. And towards the end of the evening, don't forget those people that paid £5 a ticket. And towards the end of the evening, I opened the doors and let everybody come in from the spirit world that's willing to come in. If it's only a little bit, just a name, a bit of a birthday message or something. And that's what was happening. But if you call that fishing, so be it then, I was fishing. I've never heard it called that before. Who's Frank? Or Francis? Living? Sorry, it isn't. It's Fred's spirit side. Doesn't belong. Belong to the lady in the red, just behind. You know Fred's spirit side, lovey. She doesn't know you, Frederick. Come on, love. Are you wearing red, love? Is she wearing red? Yeah, it says she's wearing red. That's it. Come on, Fred's daughter. Let's be having you. Sorry, love. I thought you were wearing red. Yeah. Hello, love. He wasn't going... Pardon?
So I spoke to you earlier on about my mum. And now you said my father, Fred.
Well, he's just going, he said, tell her it's Fred. And when he said, she's wearing red, love. So obviously I went to try and give it to that lady, and he said, no. He said, she did so want me to come. Didn't you, love?
Yes.
And so that's all right then. We've done that okay, Fred. Yes, just a minute, love. Who worked with the co-op, love?
My father.
That's it. You're all right, Freddie, love. You're on the right wavelength.
He was a milk lorry driver. He worked on the milk lorries.
Well, he worked with the co-op.
Yes.
Yes, did you, love? He said, it's bloody hard, this, isn't it? It is, love. It's difficult when the power's starting to get a bit weak, and we have to sort of gee it up a little bit. But he said, they kept pushing me to say, go on, Fred. Go on and do it. You know, because she's, yes, I will, love it. Did you, he said I had it down here, girl.
Pardon?
He said I had it, I said, well, did you suffer, love, before you got over? And he said, yes, I did. It started down here, gal. And then came up.
That's right.
He said it started down here, gal.
I didn't know it started down there, but...
What, love?
It finished up here.
That's what he said, it started down here, gal. Then it came all up here. Oh, he said I did have it was a bad time. I'm glad to be free of that. Did you now? Yes. Does Elizabeth go with Fred, lovey? No, Eva goes with Fred.
Yes, my mother and my father.
Both
Eva
together.
and Fred. And they're together.
Yes.
Oh, thank you.
And she said, I went to find him for you, love. She calls him Freddie. Said, I went to find our Freddie, and she said, come on, let's have a go and see if we can do it. Oh, you're their baby, love.
Thank you.
They love you so much. You're wearing your mum's ring now, aren't you?
Yes.
Yes, so she got my ring on. Yes, did you, love? And did you get very poorly, love, Fred? Yes. I don't know. Strange things to tell me, love. You haven't got a lilac bush in your garden, have you?
Yes.
Are you cutting?
Beautiful lilac.
He said, when the lilac's out in your garden, girl, just go and pick a spray and say, Mum and Dad's here.
Oh.
You know, because they suddenly showed me this beautiful lilac tree. And so be happy and know that they're here, love.
Yes, thank you very much.
So you see, it can work if you send out love, can't it?
Yes.
All right, my love.
Thank you.
I've learnt now the 3 principles I have to live by in my work. That's humility, which takes a hell of a long time to learn, honesty and humour. And if I stick by those 3 principles, then they won't let me down. I would like to say thank you all very much for your love you've given me this evening. For those of you I've spoken to, I hope I've given proofs of survival. To those of you who I haven't been able to contact, then I would like to say this to you. Remember that your loved ones are always close to you. Even though they haven't spoken to you tonight, you've only got to send out a thought and they'll be there. So safe journey home, and God go with you.
Ladies and gentlemen, there's just one more person Doris would like you to meet. Will you please give a very warm welcome to Doris's husband, John. John Stokes.
I don't know whether she fell over my feet, stuck her foot out, or whether I fell over hers. It's something about clumsy sergeant. and I was with another girl actually, a mate of mine, and I said, "You go on." And Doris was dressed in Air Force uniform, you know, wartime. As a young medium, she was under there. And once she got her wings, we had to wait until Terry had grown up, I suppose. And then she started touring the Midlands, and then up in Lancashire. And people started to get to know her.
I've served my apprenticeship. I've trudged all over the country, knee-deep in snow. I had to catch 3 buses to get home. Got home at midnight. I've been so physically exhausted. I've stood in front of the fire and John's had to bring me a pail and I've vomited for 2 and 6 pence. And that included your bus fares. So you have to see, we've served our apprenticeship. The mediums that have got names today. We just didn't come out and suddenly appear, you know, like we've certainly served our apprenticeship the hard way. You remember who this is, Michaela?
Romanov. I'm not quite sure.
He's my guide.
Your guide, of
And without
course,
Romanov,
yes.
I wouldn't be able to have this
Oh, it's wonderful.
mobile
Doris,
home.
yes.
It should be Romanov, but Terry had it
Yes.
carved for me and he put
It's
Romanov.
beautiful, Doris.
But without
It
him,
really
I
is.
wouldn't have this place.
Well, you do a lot for him. He does something for you. But
Yes, I
without
suppose
you,
it's
I mean, he
two-way
couldn't
thing.
come through to this world, could he?
No. I've got money in the bank for the first time in my life. I earned this in Australia, but I worked hard for it. But basically, money is secondary importance to me, thank God. I mean, I give to charity. I haven't got as much as, according to people, that I should have, the work I've done.
You see, my psychic guide says to us, do your best. You cannot do better than your best.
Here's Minnie.
And this is the whole way
Here's Minnie.
There is Minnie. I know she's there. She's always here.
Minnie the mongoose, look,
Yes.
John.
Can you see
Oh,
her?
I forget, John doesn't
She's
see.
just here.
I love a divine service. I think it does you good to do a divine service. I do try and go once a month or so, if I'm not on the road, because it refreshes you. It sort of brings you down to what it's really all about, not just theatres and things like that. Pardon?
Lead us in prayer, dear.
Would you like to? I don't mind.
No, I'd like you to.
Would you like, shall we join together in prayer, friends? O great divine Spirit, creator of all life, and yet very dear Father and friend of each one of us here present, we ask thy blessing. We ask thy blessing upon this church and all its members. We ask thy blessing upon the sick and the suffering. Forgive us our debts, dear God, and give us the grace to forgive our debtors. We have promised to do our best for you, and in return you have promised, if we come to you as a little child, you, our dear Father, will answer, if it be to our good. God bless you. Amen. I'd like to talk about death. To me, death is a great adventure we've got to look forward to. There's no darkness to be feared. And isn't it wonderful that God not only loves us enough to give us life after death, but He's made it possible for our loved ones to come back and talk to us. And I know, with beyond absolute doubt, with certainty, you can't die for the life of you. That is a fact. Don't tell me it's not true, because I know it is. I've been there. I've died and come back. So I know what it's like even to die and nothing to be afraid of at all. Most wonderful sound. All your pain goes away. You're going feet first. Spiral of lovely colours. There's a light at the end, and you know when you reach in that to get that, and your spirit people But your loved ones are going backwards in front of you. So there's nothing to be afraid of at all. Nothing to be afraid of at all in dying.
Something because he lost his brother last year, and I wanted him to come today to show him that his brother is still with him.
Doris puts you at ease as well when she
He was
says
frightened
about
to
spirits.
approach the spirit.
I was very frightened of spirits, but now I'm
You
not
see,
frightened now.
He has read a bit in a book.
I've read some of the books that Doris has written, yeah. So I thought I'd come up and see. And I really do believe now.
I just want him to prove to him that his brother's not dead. That he's still with us, because he was a very special boy, very special boy.
Yesterday when that mother and son came up to the rostrum, and they were very disappointed, although I know that he tried to get through, you see. And immediately I said, boy was there, and I said, what do I call you, love? And he said, Stephen. And then he said to his brother, he said he's wearing all my jewellery and stuff, my watch and everything. And the mother turned around and said, he's been waiting for that for a year, and in 1 second you've done it. And the boy went out grinning all over his face. Then it's worthwhile. And I said I would agree to see them. Hello, my love. Hello, God bless you, my love. Do sit down. Are you not going to be scared, are you?
No.
Were you happy yesterday?
Yeah, really was.
You know?
Brought a lot of comfort, yes.
Just that little bit yesterday.
Yeah.
Yes.
But there was a great deal of mystery and confusion around him, love.
Yes.
But he wasn't killed, love, in a road accident or anything like that.
No.
I didn't get that. I didn't feel as I was thrown or something hit me. I think he said he was found.
I found him.
On the bed.
No, on the floor.
Well, it was in his room.
Yes.
And he said, I said, did you go out and not come back? He said, no, I was at home, I was found.
Yes, I found him.
Oh, you poor soul. Stephen, I know this is a bit quick, love, but you take your time and sort of, yes. Who's Gary?
It's one of his friends.
It's one of his best friends.
He said, I've been talking to Gary just before. I hope I'm not going to distress you, but
No.
I think that he brought his, he was very young. I feel as if had I got something over my head. Why can't I breathe?
Yeah.
He'd taken an overdose or something.
He took his own life, yeah.
He did?
Yeah.
He shot himself.
Oh, that's right. I feel as if, and yet I didn't feel as if it was, no, I felt as if I couldn't breathe, my head.
Yes. Yes, he did. Yes, he used to say about a couple of weeks before he died, I used to always walk in his bedroom to talk to him, and he used to say he felt as if his head. He was a thinker. He was a thinker.
He said, I feel as if felt as if the top of my head was coming off.
Yes.
But
Yes, I can understand that.
he said, what a stupid thing to do. Can you forgive me, Mum?
Yes.
You see, love, he
Yes.
was out of his mind for that short time.
Yes, I do forgive.
He wouldn't have done it if he was in his right mind. And let me make one thing clear to you, lovey, right from the start. They're not punished.
No.
He's not in some desolate place, love, or in hellfire. Because he was sick in the mind.
Yes.
Who's Joan?
Yes, he always used. I'm Joan.
Oh, that's it. That's what I'm waiting
Joan.
for.
Thank you.
He said, tell our Joni. He goes, our Joni. He said, I really got it into my head that had something the matter with my head.
Yes.
And he used to, if things didn't go right, he was a very sensitive boy.
He was very, very
Things
sensitive.
he used to look in at himself. He could gone out and yelled and shouted. It would have been a great help to him, but he couldn't.
Yes.
He used to brood on things.
Yes, he did. Yes.
And I bet when he was not in his moody periods, he'd
He
be the
was
most
lovely.
loving, affectionate
was.
boy you could wish me. Give you the earth.
He was.
To me, God's special children are always like this. But he said,
Yes.
and he plays the guitar over there.
Oh.
He always wanted to play the guitar.
That's right.
He used to stand in front of the mirror for
Yes,
hours.
he just stand in front of the mirror with the guitar.
He said, well, I can play the thing now. So there. They've taught me properly over here. But he said, you know, I used to try and play the guitar.
Yeah, he did.
And he said, well, I can play the guitar properly now. So,
Oh.
so don't worry about him there, lovey. He's okay. Somebody called Clark. the name of Clark he's talking about?
Oh, yes, grandparents.
He's met the Clark family over there. Then there's somebody called Mary.
That's my mum.
She's arrived.
Yes.
And she said, now look here, Joni. Don't you worry about him. We're looking after him. Or he's looking after us.
Thank you.
And you've got to stop fretting. You know? You've got your life to live, love. I don't know what he's talking about the dinner service for.
It's me.
Yes. You haven't bought a dinner service, son, have you?
I've just started a new job.
Oh, is it something to do with pottery and things?
Yeah.
He said, you know, plates and things.
I've just started a steward's job.
Handing out plates, serving dinners. And
Yeah.
what the hell is all about dinners? He knows all about you, love. Was there a flower, an anchor of flowers?
Yes.
At the he said, thank you for the anchor of flowers. You didn't think I'd bloody see that, but I was there.
Yes, that's where I had him, an anchor.
He said,
he loved the water. He loved the water.
He said, and the best thing about the funeral, ever so many people turned up.
They did.
I was surprised. They stood outside the door, you know, they couldn't get them in.
That's right.
He said, but the best piece of flowers I love was the anchor.
That's right, that's what we got him.
Beautiful. Thank you for the anchor. Thank Dad for the anchor.
And he knows he had a military funeral, does he?
Oh, yes. Marvellous. Never thought that ever happened to me.
See, even at the end, you want to give them what you can, don't you?
And I stood outside, he said, and I stood and watched it, you see. One wreath kept falling off, he said.
Yes.
My dad will get annoyed in a minute, because everything has to work with clockwork with Dad.
Yes, that is right.
And he said this, they kept putting it up and it kept falling down. And he said I could spare him his father saying, if they don't fix that, I'll go and do the thing.
Yes, that is right, yes. Yes,
And then we had to
behind
wait.
watching it.
He said, but he said I was there. So what more proof could you have? Love?
That is right. That's marvellous.
I'm not afraid of death. There's no darkness to go into. Somebody comes and takes you by the hand, you simply step from this room into the next room, into another dimension. But don't think it's all milk and honey unless you've earned it. Because we know that everything we do goes ahead of us. It's all in the...
There is this healing energy involved. I feel it pumping from me towards the patient.
I feel as though I'm being pressed into the carpet.
Spiritual healers believe that they have access to a curious energy that science and medicine cannot measure, but that they claim they are nonetheless channeling in some way. And this then awakens their patients' self-healing abilities. Whatever that energy system might be, if it exists at all, it always seems to involve the use of the healer's hands around the patient's body, though not necessarily touch. Healers like Jane Tinworth in Devon claim the process they initiate is not simple exercise, nor does it include hypnosis or require a special belief or particular psychological state.
You all right?
As long as there are no barriers, the healing should be effective to some degree. It can be effective with little children, with babies, with animals.
There are common elements in the healing tradition around the world. This is Leicester, Massachusetts. Here, spiritual healing is conducted in a context of religious ritual. This is a Catholic healing ministry. It is led by Father Ralph Diorio. Father Diorio has been approved as a healer by the Vatican. While he too may be channeling energy, the Catholic view is that that must represent a divine force. The skeptical view is that such events play on the susceptibilities of individuals. So a priest's approach can have a special meaning for someone, and its effect may be self-imposed. Faith, after all, expresses itself in different ways in each individual. A service like this, then, may simply expose people to group pressure and to subtle suggestion and expectations.
What's wrong, brother? I have a bad back, spinal problem.
The faithful believe that the priest's touch will lead to the healing of whatever woe or ill each one brings. Bill Cormier has suffered from multiple sclerosis for 15 years. The last 7 have grown gradually more difficult with no remissions. His walking, for instance, is reduced to a shuffle. This is his first experience ever of being slain in the spirit by Father Diorio. Antoinette Worth's first experience of being slain by Father Diorio had results that astonished her and have made her a convinced follower here. She suffered from a neuromuscular disease, myasthenia gravis, for 11 years until she received Father Diorio's ministry. Antoinette had been treated by some of the best specialists, and yet even on regular 3-hour doses of special drugs, she was crippled with weakness and was deteriorating. Her specialist presumably regarded her instant and complete recovery as something of a miracle.
Well, being in the position he was in, he said, as he made the sign of the cross, and this was a Jewish man, and for 9 years I had never seen him do that. He said, well, thank God. He says, I can't explain it. He said, but you're not taking your medicine. You're doing fine. The tests show that there's no evidence of disease. He says, there's nothing else I could say.
Bill, people seem to be deeply affected by the experience. How was it for you?
I felt as though something touched me, yes. Something that is of a divine nature. I noticed a lot of warmth, heat in my legs. I noticed when I sat up that I got up much quicker than I normally could. I was able to use my hamstring muscles, which that's something I haven't done in probably years at this point. Just very wonderful. I also noticed coming back that my stride had increased.
Bill Cormier's experience has not cured him, even if he feels some improvement. Indeed, it could be said that the ritual pursued here raises false hope in vulnerable people. After all, there are many diseases whose course is temporarily affected by various psychological influences. Could that have been what was going on for Bill?
I don't know. All I know is that I came here looking for the grace of God, and I feel as though I found it. I don't know what else might have taken place, but it was a good experience, a very good experience.
The religious context of a healing means that fervor, faith, and devotion are just as important here as any hard, objective evidence of an actual healing outcome. But whatever evaluation might emerge in the future, one cannot ignore one particular and instant effect.
Someone hold this, please.
It is rather as if people are being touched by a stun gun. The priestly touch might be dismissed as some mere symbol, or as a cue to enter an hypnotic trance. But perhaps, too, people are quite literally stunned. Could there be an explanation here of a physical or of a biological nature? Could it be, after all, that people have received in the priestly touch an unknown or undefined electrical charge? This is Boulder, Colorado. Unable to walk properly for almost 3 years, Valerie Gould too has multiple sclerosis. Her leg muscles have not yet wasted, but they're not being activated by the electrical stimulation her nervous system should provide. This is her first visit to a spiritual healer, Joseph Elgazar. He was an experienced physical therapist in a hospital in Israel till he discovered he had an unusual calling.
Your problem, please.
I can't quite walk. Almost, but not quite. My legs are heavy. My left giving me a lot of problems.
What is the diagnosis?
Multiple sclerosis.
MS. How long time?
7 years.
7 years.
Valerie's right leg has remained easier to move than her left over the last 3 years.
This leg, I can do that easily.
You can do easy. Your left leg now. I would like to see that, yes.
Well, okay. Not very far.
Again up, please. And relax. Now, don't do anything. I will do it.
Okay.
1, 2, up. Thank you.
It's a big shock.
Close your eyes, please. Close your eyes.
Joseph Elgazar, it seems, has powers more typical of an electric eel than of a human being. He conveys a substantial shock to his patients at will and as a frequent part of his healing.
When you feel this feeling up, try to help yourself to put this feet here.
Okay.
Like that.
All right.
Don't do anything now.
Oh, didn't quite make it. Okay.
Relax your feet down slow as you could.
Slow
as you could.
Okay.
The ways that you did it
good.
slow, you use your muscle. Do it up again.
Joseph Elgazar believes his strange ability and style of healing is directed by God.
I'm wondering if this is going to help me to walk on my crutches and eventually not walk with my crutches.
You want me to start to do something in this direction?
Yes, I would like to work with you and see if I couldn't begin to walk again. Just
I will try.
Without my crutches. Oh, what? You're shocking me. You want me to stand up?
If you could.
Okay. Oh.
And sit down. And sit down again.
Okay. I feel.
Stand up.
My legs
Hold
are
your
really
hand.
strong.
Hold your hand. Hold your body.
Okay.
Hold your body.
I feel a little shaky.
Hold your body. Hold your body. Relax your hand. And sit down.
Okay. I was feeling a little shaky. My legs were
1,
feeling a little wobbly.
2, 3. Stand up.
Okay. That was
Hold your
better.
body. That was what?
That was better.
Are
It
you
feels
sure?
a little less shaky. Oh, what do you
What?
want me to do?
Nothing.
You're shocking me.
Sit down again.
Okay.
And whenever you want to do it by yourself without asking me. By
I'm
yourself.
feeling hot.
I will be a bit far from you. You won't feel hot.
Let's try to stand up here.
Thank you.
That was pretty good. I felt fairly balanced. Would you like me to stand once more?
If you want.
I'll see what I feel like this time. My legs are a little wobbly, but they feel strong.
Try to hold one hand here, one hand here. Straight your body.
Okay.
Your head up. Hold strong, please.
Okay.
Lift your left knee up. Thank you.
Okay, that's...
We try again. 1, 2, 3, up. Hold and down.
Okay.
Release this hand. Release this hand.
I'm
You
off
don't have to
balance.
lift so high your left feet.
Uh-huh.
A bit up and forward your left feet.
It's heavy.
Yes, right. Push my hands with your hands.
Okay.
Stand up. Hold.
Oh, I need to balance.
Hold up. Hold by yourself.
Feeling a little shaky.
That's better than before. Till the chair. Push my hand down and walk.
Okay.
To the chair.
Okay. That's shaky. My legs are feeling stronger, and they have in a long time, and I think we can work together and I'll begin to walk again on my own. It's difficult right now, though.
We have to strengthen muscle, abdominal muscle, your feet, and to work on that. If there is place to improve, to make better, and we will try to do that with you.
Well, that would be great. I think that we've made a lot of progress here today,
Thank you.
and I see no reason that we couldn't take it a step farther, no pun intended.
We will try.
Valerie has since had 3 similar sessions with Joseph and has been able to stand and walk on her own or with the aid of a stick. She intends to keep up her visits. Joseph Elgazar considers that healers have at least some electrical potential like his, and that it is a vital component of any healing process.
I'm off again.
The thing is, if I stand nearer to you, it's giving you more supply.
Jane Tinworth's experience in England would also appear to depend on the presence of electrical transmission and reception between healer and patient, or at least something very much like it. Her approach to her work may also involve an interplay of several other elements, not least of which are careful listening to and observation of her patients.
That's when it stops.
I think so.
This session with Jane Tinworth is the first ever for Colin Heal. He has no previous knowledge of spiritual healing or indeed of any alternative medicine.
You're still plugged into the main.
Yeah.
Colin's story is quite typical of people who come to Jane Tinworth. He's a butcher and has been engaged in physical work all his life. He also trains a local football team. Over a year ago, he severely damaged his back and can scarcely bend or exercise. He found that he had a trapped sciatic nerve. He now walks with a slight limp and is in constant pain, so much so that he cannot sleep at night. Doctors and physiotherapists have told him they now have done all they can. A nurse in a local hospital suggested that Jane Tinworth might have something to offer.
True healing comes from within. I personally feel that the difference with spiritual healing is that it touches that inner healer in a very profound way. It can awaken the inner healer directly.
Jane considers that each patient is surrounded by an unseen force that is quite tangible to her and that she can use for diagnosis as well as for treatment.
And what I'm doing, Colin, I'm just moving around in your energy field because I'm sensitive to that. I can pick up things that are happening within your physical self as well. The fact that a measurement for this energy has not yet been found doesn't mean that it doesn't exist. That's fine, just let it happen.
They're all both off now. It's funny, you can't stop it.
You want to stop it?
No, I said it's funny that I'm not controlling them.
Just happening.
was.
I finished up with bruises where it's banging the table.
Ah, worth it though.
It could be argued that such vigorous thrashing of the arms requires no special explanation and is well within Colin's control. But would he choose to do it with severe back pain? And his movements do seem to follow whatever it is Jane is doing behind him, even though he cannot see her. Jane Tinworth's technique is to work her hand through the alleged energy field and have the body respond spontaneously, without the patient having any control of the process. She is apparently awakening the inner healer.
Would that normally hurt your back to do that?
Yes.
And how does it feel now?
All right.
They're not controlling what's going on. They're fully aware of what is going on, but they're observing it. They haven't gone somewhere else.
Colin's movements are growing increasingly odd, given that he normally tries to protect himself from any strain or pressure.
I can't roll my legs yet.
I assure you they do release eventually.
Yeah.
I think there is a feeling when you're going through the experience of trust. You know inwardly on some level that whatever is happening feels right.
Yeah.
Is that very painful?
No, it wasn't too bad. Not now.
Not now it's stopped.
No. I can sit in a chair now, whereas I couldn't before. I had to sit to one side. Where I can sit upright now. And, you know, I can stand up and walk properly now, which I couldn't do before.
Colin has had a series of manipulations that are unusual and apparently not controlled by him, and he is feeling substantially better. But is this a way to permanently manage a chronic back problem?
Any pain?
No. Colin has since had 5 sessions of a similar nature. He's now fully active at work and back training his football team daily. He also sleeps through the night without pain.
Feel that moving easily?
Yeah.
So perhaps healing can be effective. But what is that energy, then, that Jane Tinworth is working with?
The nature of that energy, I can only tell you what I believe. I believe it's a universal force. I believe that it transcends time and space. I believe that it is motivated by thought.
So there is a deep, if esoteric, undercurrent to what Jane thinks is involved in healing. The claim that it is thought-driven is widespread. In Denver, at the University of Colorado Health Sciences Center, the practice of spiritual healing is being explored. Here, they too presume that some deep level of consciousness is vital to success. The healing style here is called therapeutic touch, though once again, little touch itself is used. It has been taught for the last 20 years or more to over 20,000 people in the USA, including many nurses and doctors. Janet Quinn is a professor of nursing.
What becomes critical is the ability of the practitioner to focus consciousness in direct energy fields. And that has, in fact, marked physiological and psychological and spiritual effects.
In Professor Quinn's experience, her immune system provided the clue to an exceptional medical outcome.
I've been a therapeutic touch practitioner myself for 15 years. But as a practitioner, I've noticed my own health is different since I started doing therapeutic touch, and people to whom I've taught therapeutic touch all over the country also report that their health is better. So this is what stimulated me to want to look at what happens in their immune system as well as the immune system of the recipient.
When we do this,
Professor Quinn has been looking at immune system changes as an apparent result of healing. She firstly selected 4 people who were in a state of grieving as a result of a recent loss or bereavement. She arranged 4 sessions of healing for them, provided by 2 healers in 1 week. Their blood and that of the healers too, was sampled immediately before and after each session. The widely held view in medicine is that the immune system may work less effectively as a result of loss or bereavement. So can it be enhanced as a result of healing? Can one detect a significant immunological change by blood sampling over just 1 week? The healers were selected by Janet Quinn as expert in therapeutic touch on the basis that their ability to focus consciousness and direct energy was reliable and consistent with a whole range of patients. The sessions were largely conducted in silence and lasted about 40 minutes. The healers tended to concentrate on evening out what they considered to be the blocks in the patient's energy field. And then, of course, some more bloodletting. The blood samples were the subject of rigorous testing by a specialist laboratory. They found no change in the immune system of patients or healers, except, however, for a small subset of immune lymphocyte cells, known as suppressor T cells, and called OKT8. The fascinating finding was that each and every person sampled, and this was as true for the 2 healers as it was for the 4 patients, but notably not for the control, revealed a drop of their OKT8 category of cells. And it was a considerable drop too. On overall average, the drop in OKT8 was a
difference in the control values were.
Dr. Tony Strelkauskas is a cellular immunologist and the supervisor of all the blood analysis in the study. He had no thought at the outset that they would discover any significant immune change, but he has been obliged, given the evidence, to change his view.
What we've shown in this study is that therapeutic touching has a direct effect on a population of immune lymphocytes.
So some specific immune cells, which might be in excess and suppressing the immune function in grieving patients, have been reduced.
What appeared to have happened here is that by a reduction, if you will, of that population of suppressor cells, the ratio of suppressor to helper cells has been changed. And that change may essentially bring these individuals back to a more normal immunological capability.
And so focusing consciousness and directing energy, it's claimed, can again awaken the inner healer. It apparently helps to revive the body's ability to resist disease.
I would have to say that I was probably skeptical as to what, if anything, we would find. My training and all of my experience certainly suggested that we would not see what we saw.
It is not what I would have expected as a scientist. As a practitioner and clinician, I'm not surprised to see it. But as a scientist, I'm totally startled to see that kind of an effect on the immune system.
But if there is such an effect taking place, could the cause be something other than the healing energy that it is claimed is at work? What about the kindness, attention, and regard for the patient? Is that not going to subtly persuade patients to simply believe that it is going to work? Such belief is powerful and effective in itself and well known in medicine, and can be induced by lots of techniques. Jane Tinworth.
There is something which transcends the patient's belief system. And that, I think, is the main component of healing.
Jane Tinworth's conviction that a healer's influence on patients' beliefs does not explain healing is representative of most healers and born of their experience of actually doing it. But assertion is not evidence. In a quiet suburb of Northern California, an intriguing attempt is emerging to answer that criticism and provide evidence that healing is indeed more than a process of suggestion and suggestibility. This man, and another 45 volunteers like him, is taking part in a research project devised by psychologist and lawyer Dr. Daniel Worth that is apparently about a new photographic technique. Worth has persuaded his project manager and the other volunteers that he is testing a prototype camera sealed off in a separate room. Each volunteer has received an 8mm wide skin wound in his upper arm by a physician at the start of the study. This house has been entirely given over to the alleged need to accommodate the new camera securely.
Hi, Will. Nice to see you again.
The camera is allegedly capable of measuring energy flow around the body and with greater precision than previous cameras. The specific question is, will that flow concentrate around the new skin opening? So the camera must not be exposed to any influence that might distort its reading of a human arm.
Now we're going to put your...
Nothing more than an arm is allowed beyond the corridor into the converted room at the end of it.
Through the hole. There you go. Wiggle through all the partitions. Okay. There we go. Okay, all the way through. You should feel a table on the other side.
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Now, put your arm on the table.
Good.
Gently relax it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, good. I'm going to leave you here for about 5 minutes. It's important that you not move your arm. So just try to relax, and I'll be back for you in 5 minutes.
Thank you.
Will is now subject to 5 minutes of tedium, after which he will be replaced by another victim. Indeed, 21 people are scheduled through the morning and 23 through the afternoon. Worth's job is simply to confirm that all participants are treated in exactly the same way by the project manager. The stopwatch is started, as is the switch to the electrical camera control in the sealed room. In fact, there is no camera. The participants have all committed themselves to endure this unstimulating experience for 16 consecutive days. 5 minutes elapse, and the assumed remote control camera is now switched off and the present subject dispatched till the next day.
Let me help you with your arm here. There you go. How was that?
During the lunch break, Dan Worth has ensured the house has been vacated. Miguel is the first member of the afternoon group.
Oh, hi, Miguel. Hey, how you doing? Come on in. Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you, too.
The project manager confirms that each participant sits in the same position and then pushes his arm through the several layers of the partition in the porthole without pulling them to one side. They are then unable to see into the adjoining room.
Okay, just wiggle it all the way through.
During the lunch hour, a healer called Laurie Eaton has been settling in and preparing herself for a run of 23 healings. Her presence is known only to Dr. Worth.
Are you going to be comfortable?
Yeah, I
Great.
think so, yeah.
Okay, I'll be back in 5 minutes.
Good.
Thanks.
Thank you.
The project manager still believes he is throwing a switch to a special type of camera. So the light is simply a silent cue to the healer to start her session. It is imperative to ensure that participants are totally unaware of the presence of a person next door. The healer was instructed to be completely unobtrusive, to conduct her gentle form of healing in as consistent a way as possible through every afternoon. The afternoon group of participants gave no indication at the end of 16 days of such concealed healing of any difference whatsoever in their experience of their 5-minute sessions to that of the morning group. Worth was scrupulous in monitoring that. He was also scrupulous in ensuring that medical experts who examined the progress of his participants' wounds did not know who was in the healed and who was in the unhealed groups.
Okay, 5 minutes is up. Great. Let me help you with your arm here.
Is Dr. Worth actually claiming that such an experiment can demonstrate any difference in the speed with which the two groups' skin punctures closed up? They were, after all, full-thickness dermal wounds 8 millimeters across, and only 16 days had elapsed. Daniel Worth.
Day 16 of the study, we had 13 of the treated group were completely healed. 13 out of 23 of the treated group were completely healed. 10 were well on their way to complete wound healing, compared to the untreated group, where we had no wound healing, no wound closures. In fact, the mean was 0.73 millimeters squared for the treated group on day 16 compared to 2.95 millimeters squared for the untreated or control group.
Medical photographs reveal the comparison clearly. This is a control group wound 8 days in. There is still a large open center. This is a healed group arm 8 days into the experiment. There is only a small open center left, and this also compares surprisingly well with the control group wound when it is actually 16 days old. It is closed somewhat, but nowhere near completely, whereas by 16 days the healed group wound is completely closed and has a convincing overall cover. This was so for the healed group and not so for the unhealed group. Yet the healed group had no knowledge of the presence of a healer, or indeed that they were involved in anything to do with healing at all, until the study was over. It's hardly likely that a belief in healing, then, is what made the healing effective. So should we perhaps now take seriously the claim that a healer is redirecting someone's energy by focusing their own consciousness or thought, or in other words, by redirecting energy by sheer willpower? The hallowed Ivy League halls of Princeton University encompass an exceptional voyage of discovery. Could it be that a specific intention we have in mind can actually become part of the physical world outside of us? If so, then our minds would exist outside our bodies. Professor Robert Jahn, at 60 years of age, has an unusual impact on his younger colleagues, largely because his whole life is driven by a belief in the power of human intention. For an eminent professor of engineering at Princeton, Jahn has a pretty unusual impact on the scientific world, too.
The contemporary scientific models presume that the world is a grand machine out there running on its own, and that we, like visitors in a museum, are here to observe that machine. What we find in our own experiments, however, is that that is not quite correct. That in point of fact, we are not only observers of the great machine, but we are also components of it, and that our intentions, our actions, our cognition have a role to play in how the machine does its own thing.
All right, go high.
Roger Nelson is a colleague of Professor Jahn. His dialogue is with a seemingly unpromising electronic box. It has been designed with great care by Jahn and his fellow scientists. It's a machine they believe worth getting to know and understand. It's called REG, or Random Event Generator.
The basic part of the circuit is a random microelectronic noise source, commercially available unit that simply produces very high frequency electromagnetic noise. This noise is sampled by our circuit, and if the sample turns out to be plus, it makes a positive pulse that can be counted. If it finds the signal negative at the time of sampling, it produces a negative pulse.
Its sampling progress is on continuous display. It is randomly sampling the noise 200 times a second, so the normal running mean between 200 negative or positive pulses will cluster around 100. The horizontal green line on the screen is that normal mean of 100.
The box as it sits here is probably worth, in terms of its hardware, its design, its construction, and its calibration costs, $100,000 or so. And it has been calibrated in actual test modes for very long periods of time to guarantee that it indeed performs as designed.
So it is reliably random. Without touching more than the start button, can human will influence that performance? Can the random mean of 100 be forced up by Roger's will alone? Every bleep of the machine means another 200 samples have been counted and another opportunity to bias the machine's monitoring in favor of sampling positives rather than negatives.
All right, we need some very good high numbers.
Can Roger's urging high numbers or positives push the machine's run of 50 bleeps to a mean above 100? The answer is not every time. But operators anyway have to run their attempts many times before they can convincingly demonstrate an effect.
The simplest statement we might make about the degree of success we have in this experiment is to note that of all of the operators who have attempted it over some 10 to 12 years of experimentation, some 68% have been successful in taking the machine in the intended directions.
Okay, ready?
Roger's persistence does produce a payoff some of the time. The object is, no matter what, to maintain a clear intention.
High numbers. All right, beautiful. Let's keep it up. Come on.
Their expectation here is not to push the mean up to 200, but only very slightly. They are overall aiming to confidently bias the sampling by just 2 or 3 times in every 1,000.
Back up, 102. All right.
But a range of 60 operators has been doing this repeatedly for a dozen years. So what does Professor Jahn believe he is demonstrating with this work?
Well, to the extent that the machine's logic is clearly localized within that metal box, one then would have to presume that the consciousness of the operator is somehow reaching out from its own physical corpus, from its own brain, to envelop in some way the logic circuitry of the box.
Well, what is the bottom line? And how does it relate to the intention and consciousness of the healer in directing energy to someone else's biological circuitry?
The scale of the effects we're talking about, as we've mentioned, are maybe 1 or 2 or 3 parts per thousand. There are any number of physiological, neurophysiological processes where variances of a few parts per thousand would be quite critical. So from that standpoint, the ability of the human consciousness, of the volition of an individual to change the odds ever so slightly by a few parts per thousand could have a very discernible effect on the behavior of the overall biological system.
Perhaps we've been seeing just that in a healer's effects on skin wounds or cells in the immune system and so on. Here at the Stanford University Hospital, it may be effective on a frightening but familiar disease.
I really missed all of you.
Yeah, we're glad to see you.
Well, I wanted to hear that, so that's why.
All of the women in this roundtable group have breast cancer that has spread to other parts of the body. Their prognosis is poor.
I've been doing a lot of thinking and talking with others, and now I've started making some earrings with Barb, and I may end up selling them, and I'm also looking into going into retailing, which I wanted to do years ago, and I just never thought it was prestigious enough for me.
So you're changing some of your beliefs.
Well, right. Well, here I was, supposedly in a prestigious position with a great company, Hewlett-Packard, and I'm not happy. So now what do I do? And it was all because I was doing what I thought I should do, not what I really wanted to do. And I listen a lot more to myself now.
Despite death being round the corner, these women have been learning their potential happiness depends on developing a clear intention about whatever life they have left.
It's really interesting because it's, and we've said this before, it's the very worst thing that can happen to you, and at the same time, it's the very best, because you learn to focus, you learn to wade through what's not important and what is important. I make conscious choices now.
Mutual support groups like this were first organized here almost 12 years ago. They were started up by a professor of psychiatry, Dr. David Spiegel.
Well, I think many of them would tell you that their lives are actually richer and more meaningful now that they've had the disease, but it's because they have taken a position toward the disease. I think there's a message there, that it is good for patients to take the illness as an occasion to take charge of every part of their life that they can. And I think mobilizing that kind of intention is a way of feeling fully alive.
I used to let people intimidate me, and I don't let people intimidate me anymore. If I want to let them know how I feel, I don't care what the adverse reactions are going to be. I'm going to stand up for myself.
Sounds like you changed a little bit.
I think I did. I also feel a lot more feminine. Even though part of me's been removed, it's sort of how I feel.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I sort of say I'm no longer a woman of substance, I'm a woman of substitutes, but it's just kind of...
But these women were not encouraged to believe that this group support might influence the course of their cancer or extend their lives, but merely that it might improve their quality of life. Indeed, no New Age technique like visualization was introduced, nor was psychotherapy. So it was perhaps rather unlike the Bristol Cancer Care Centre in England. Originally, 50 women with very severe cancer had been allocated to these groups. Another 36 such women were not, but were monitored as a control group. Many of them reacted with relief at not having to commit 2 hours of every week for a whole year to meetings of no proven benefit.
So those of us that have gone through something like this are actually stronger for it because we've...
But however inconvenient such meetings may have seemed to everybody at the beginning, they revealed sometime later a remarkable surprise. Professor Spiegel.
Well, what we found in the study was that the odds of surviving were substantially enhanced for those women in the treatment group. And what you observe then is that the probabilities of surviving are pretty much the same until 20 months after the study began. And then the control patients tend to die rather rapidly. And by 4 years, all of the control patients have died, while a third of the treatment sample are still alive. And so a large number of them continue to survive for many years, a few of them 10 years after they entered the study. Everybody understands what a year and a half means. And on average, patients in the treatment group lived a year and a half longer than patients in the control sample.
The group had seemingly then become a sort of collective healer. It was as if the whole had become more than the sum of its parts and was willing its parts into life.
Someone who is not here tonight, who has had a reoccurrence and is in Dr. Spiegel's group, has learned to live each day and make it worthwhile. Because that's all of us have. I mean, there could be a 9.5 earthquake tomorrow, and that would take care of your old age, and mine too, you know?
We take a lot of people with us.
There was also apparently one poignant and important quality underpinning their newfound volition.
These were women who were facing quite directly their fears of dying, who grieved one another, went to one another's funerals, circulated poems about one another. When somebody died, there'd be a poem circulated around the group the next week. One poet said about a woman who died, remembering the sturdy surf of your laughter gentles my grief at your going and tempers the thought of my own.
At Stanford, it would seem love and compassion as a motive force behind human will heals. For Jane Tinworth, that research confirms the essential inner knowledge and experience of healers.
My motivating factor, as with all healers, is compassion, is love. You give in as non-judgmental way as you are able, and you open yourself to be a channel for this energy. Just let me know what you're feeling.
I can feel a change already.
What does it feel like?
That's difficult to describe. It's loosening up, certainly.
Your leg?
Yeah.
You can feel it loosening, can you?
Oh, yes, that movement and I don't think I've felt before.
The joints of Paul Harrison's legs, and indeed his whole body, have been seized up with arthritis for years. He's come for a healing for the first time, with no knowledge of what might be done for him, or indeed what Jane does with her curious powers.
You know, something's coming out of it, you know. It's smouldering.
Smouldering? Yeah. That's a very good way to...
The stiffness in Paul's right shoulder has been so severe that for the last 2 years he has been quite unable to raise his arm at all.
Are you aware of the position of your arm?
Not really. It's moved under. Never have had my hand up this high for so long before.
Healers around the world claim that they have gained access to an intangible energy through subjective experience, but that energy can still be appreciated by any of us.
Still feeling comfortable?
Yes.
If we're interested and if we look within for it, we will find it. It's not somewhere else. It's within us and around us, within the universe, within the cosmos. It's omnipresent.
In a religious rather than a non-religious setting, omnipresent energy, of course, has to mean God. But even though ritual and theology, and psychology too, are of importance here, it is hard to ignore that non-religious healing techniques also may be present and of value. For instance, techniques like possible electrical transmission, or the use of conscious intention in directing people's energy, or the conveying of love and compassion, seem to underpin the healing procedure here too. So if the same techniques are included, could it be that the same physiological effects take place as well? For example, effects on some immune cells. Might that help to explain the persistence of religious healing claims that previously have seemed miraculous? Much more research is clearly called for. Certainly, the healing process itself and its possible value to our physical and even to our emotional health may be worth a reappraisal, rather than the complete rejection it has often received from the conventional world. However weird and wonderful it may appear, it is surely time that science and medicine set about studying it systematically. The power of religion and the respect for faith and belief is an all-pervading part of the background of modern Spanish life. In this private hospital, called the Virgin of the Beautiful Water Meadows, a rather unusual event is about to begin, and it may indicate how modern-day medicine can benefit from the potent influence of a patient's belief. This woman, Senora Mari Magdalene Escudero, is about to undergo a full-scale operation, but without conventional anesthesia, or hypnosis, or any chemical painkiller or acupuncture. The whole operation will be supervised by her brother, Dr. Escudero. He is known to the team, as well as to her, by his Christian name, Angel or Angel. Angel has convinced his sister that her operation will be safe and painless if she simply believes in her ability to take control of her body. She merely needs to express that belief with a happy disposition. Her personal companion and constant monitor of her feelings through the operation will be her sister-in-law, Angel's wife, Senora Mari Jesus Escudero. The principal surgeon is not Dr. Escudero, but an orthopedic specialist here in Murcia called Dr. Carlos Clavel.
Carlos. ¿Has visto las marcas? Sí. ¿Son correctas? No, la he cambiado ya.
Since childhood, Senora Escudero has suffered from a slight bowing of her leg bones. Now, in middle age, that misalignment within is giving her arthritic complications in the knees. The intention today is to break the bones in her leg and then pin them into a straightened position. The surgery itself is conventional. Patients who follow the Escudero approach to anesthesia are often observed by visiting doctors. In this case, Dr. Michael Whiteley, OBE, a British surgeon who has retired to Spain but retains a continuing interest in anesthesia, and Dr. Amalia del Palacio, a research biologist from Madrid. She's also interested in how such patients can possibly achieve anesthesia through willpower alone, if they do. Certainly, Senora Escudero presents no hint of anxiety, let alone panic, that would oblige Dr. Clavel to question whether it was prudent to proceed. Before any incisions into a leg are made, it is common surgical practice to hold the leg up and, using a rubber bandage, squeeze out much of the blood past the loose tourniquet wrapped around the thigh. Once this is done, the tourniquet can be inflated to maintain the tourniquet's grip on the leg throughout the operation.
When you cut the skin, it's just the dry colour of the skin and the yellow fat underneath, and no blood. You can see exactly what you're doing.
I see.
But the tourniquet's constant tight grip might itself be numbing the leg somewhat, and so reducing sensation in it.
Aunque quiera. ¿Y tienes las manos de alguien más puestas? Sí, sí. ¿Y qué sientes al contacto de esas manos? También muy agradable. Muy agradable. ¿Qué sientes cuando te toca a ella? ¿Ella? Sí, cuando te coge la mano. No se la coge. ¿Y a ti te gusta que te cojan la mano? Sí, claro. O sea, que ella es como una hermana para ti. No más. Más que tu hermana. Bueno, eso es fantástico de oír.
But having a positive attitude is not the only requirement of Angel's psychological form of anesthesia.
Perfecto. Saliva líquida. Tú sabes lo que significa eso para conseguir la anestesia psicológica. Tener la boca húmeda y pensar en la anestesia es suficiente para tenerla. Tú lo sabes.
Doctors Del Palacio and Whiteley have been told by Escudero prior to the operation to keep watching the patient's mouth. Saliva is a vital adjunct in his view to maintaining her happy disposition. A dry mouth would be, for Escudero, a symptom of fear or potential panic.
Puedes observar que la piel está seca, seca y sonrosada.
The operation has been underway for the last 5 minutes. A deep incision in the side of the lower leg has been made and an access tunnel prepared to the fibula, the smaller of the 2 bones below the knee.
Tú y yo podemos hablar, no pasa nada, no interferimos. Yo creo que no, que es muy importante que hablemos con ella, entre tú y yo. Por eso te he dicho, tú y yo podemos hablar. Sí. Antes es que...
The surgical objective with the fibula is to remove a wedge of it to allow it some flexibility. If it can then be bent without breaking, that will provide leeway for the later alignment of the shin bone or tibia. There are 2 ways of removing the wedge of bone. The first one involves a saw blade vibrated by a drill.
Agua no tenemos, ¿verdad?
Agua, danos un poquito de suero.
Quite apart from the pain sensors in the skin that are still being stimulated by the holding instruments, the sawing is now assaulting the pain sensors in the bone. This would normally be an excruciating experience for anyone.
¿Quieres agua, Carlos?
Que el paciente no dice, no se lamenta, no se queja de nada, se siente bien en la mesa de operaciones, no hay reflejo de defensa, cosa muy importante, está la zona donde estamos operando quieta completamente, inmóvil, operamos con toda normalidad.
Cuando das tus sortijas, ¿qué sientes ahora?
This operation has been going on for 20 minutes so far.
Carlos, ¿qué sutura quieres? ¿Dexon del cero?
Sabéis que uno de los signos del dolor es la midriasis, la dilatación de la pupila. Aquí no se da.
Te has pintado el ojo, ¿eh? Que te veo yo.
The operation on the fibula is virtually complete, and the patient's pulse rate has remained so far both low and steady.
Tiene 20 pulsaciones menos que antes de empezar la intervención.
The major stage of the operation now takes place just below the knee on the tibia or shin bone. The surgical team proceeds with it and with the further demands it makes of the patient, still quite unconcerned with the possibility of her being upset in the process. According to Escudero, even though his patients remain fully conscious, they neither panic nor lapse into shock.
No tapéis el monitor, por favor.
The usual surgical procedure now is to drill a steel rod into place, which after some further wedge removal will then hold the tibia in a correct realignment.
¿Fuera rayo?
It should be remembered that there is no evidence here of anesthetic or other drugs, or of acupuncture or hypnosis. Indeed, Escudero insists he never uses such techniques. It would seem then we must be looking at an example of mind over matter. Astonishing though it may be, this patient is still apparently feeling no pain.
¿La luz? ¿Quiere la luz? Sí.
No tiene mucha calor. Sí.
Dobla un poquito la rodilla. Ahí. Si la apretas, no va a...
Marie Magdalena's husband has been able to watch all of the procedure from the outset and to offer his moral support from the observation room.
¿Cómo estás de bien, nena? ¿Qué tal?
De gloria.
Relatives, if they wish, are allowed by the patient's side to supplement the comforting role that Angel's wife provides. The final stage of the operation involves another assault on the patient, an additional rod is set in lower down the leg to which an external adjustment pin will be attached. Maria Magdalena's nickname is Maruja.
Maruja, ¿quieres decirnos cómo te encuentras en este momento y cómo te has sentido en toda la intervención?
Estupendamente, maravillosamente.
¿Qué sensaciones has sentido durante todo el tiempo?
Muy agradables.
¿Quieres venadilla o no?
No.
¿Cómo estás de bien? Ya han terminado. Sí.
Whatever is going on here, this operation and the patient's response to it lie completely outside the conventional wisdom of modern anesthesia.
Me parece fantástico cómo funciona el mecanismo. Si tú lo tienes tú y tú lo tienes que discutir, pero me parece fabuloso.
You say in Spanish, the proof of the pudding is in the eating. You know the expression?
La prueba del que el pastel es bueno se tiene cuando se come.
Cuando se come.
Y es lo que estamos viendo ahora.
Perfectly. Levántala. Bueno, ahora quitan la compresión y pasa la sangre. Piensa, mis arterias se dilatan fácilmente. Llega la sangre a mi pie con toda facilidad. ¿Notas calor?
Noto un calor.
¿No notas calor?
¡Qué calor más suave! Una cosa así, que me
Entra la
corre
sangre.
hacia abajo.
Clearly some suggestion, if not hypnosis, is going on to a fair degree. Though the patient has certainly remained conscious and participant through what would normally be a severe ordeal.
Cuanto puedas lo vas moviendo.
Ya.
Muy bien. Ahora,
Quite evidently she feels no after pain, though she has now felt a change of temperature. So which sensations she is somehow able to block out are quite distinctly selected by her. She can feel heat and normal sensation, but no pain.
muy bien. ¿Sigue moviendo? ¿Se van calentando?
Ya está caliente.
Ya está caliente.
Sí, ya lo noto perfectamente.
Muy bien.
En 2 o 3 besos o 4 hoy.
Touching,
Yes.
kissing. Well, that is not so unusual in this country, especially in this moment.
Levanta, estírala completamente. Muy bien.
Mueve el pie hacia arriba.
Dr. Clavel has good reason to be pleased with Maruja's right leg, as well as with the new alignment of her left one.
Ahora mismo están prácticamente iguales. La misma, aunque tiene aquí el vendaje, pero se nota la misma convergencia.
Perfecto.
¿Si quiere examinar?
Clavel also operated on Maruja's right leg and straightened it 16 weeks previously, and in exactly the same way, with her using her brother's psychoanesthesia alone.
Has good movement.
Dr. Escudero also claims that after his patients have used his psychoanesthesia techniques, all their post-operative wounds heal fast and without inflammation.
And if we look at the leg, you can see the scar of the previous operation over the upper end of the tibia, very close to the knee joint. The places where the pins were put through at the previous operation. And then lower down the leg, with a short scar over the fibula. The leg is straight and compares very favorably with the one that's just been operated on.
Maruja, ¿la han operado alguna vez en su vida con anestesia convencional?
Sí.
¿Y para usted cuál es la mayor diferencia entre la anestesia convencional y esta técnica que ha sido utilizada hoy aquí?
Eso de entrar muerta o que te dejen muerta, eso para mí es algo horroroso.
Sí, doctor Clavel, ¿le podría hacer una pregunta? ¿Cuál, desde su punto de vista, es el futuro de esta técnica?
Yo después de ver el resultado que da aquí, pienso que se puede hacer cualquier tipo de cirugía.
Pero el futuro de toda esta técnica va más allá de la cirugía. Va a un mejor conocimiento de las propias capacidades humanas para usarlas fundamentalmente aprendiendo a vivir mejor, aprendiendo a vivir más felices, de manera que esa propia felicidad sea la puesta en marcha de una nueva medicina preventiva. You can change your life doing two things. Using positively your thoughts to program your own brain and having every moment liquid saliva in your mouth. With these two things, the human beings can achieve many important things. Everything in our life
changed. Everything changed positively. And in our health, too.
This is Escudero's hometown, Valencia. The role of doctors as healers and teachers has a long and venerable history here, and indeed throughout much of Spain. Messengers bringing the word to the people is an accepted metaphor, especially when the message itself has perhaps a mystical quality to it. Certainly, it's a message that has brought Angel local fame and fortune as a doctor. His home in the suburbs of Valencia also doubles as the clinic where he conducts his non-surgical work and where he has developed his experiences in surgery into a universal philosophy.
Nada hay nuevo en cuanto a cualidades en el ser humano. Sí hay nuevo en cuanto a modos o vías de usarlas.
Escudero believes that we can stretch ourselves from within and that we impose unnecessary limits on how we use our qualities. He himself has learnt to be a skilled sharpshooter, a sculptor, and a pilot. His style is unusual, but his message to all his patients is that they can be achievers, that faith and conviction is all it takes.
A mí, en cualquier caso, nunca me importó la novedad de lo que yo hago, sino la bondad de lo que estoy haciendo en beneficio de mis pacientes.
One new patient lives about a mile away from Dr. Escudero. He's English and takes a skeptical view of people with a message. Ray Ibbotson and his wife recently established an English-speaking school for local Spanish children. He was soon co-opted by Dr. Escudero to teach him English. Ray is hoping to overcome his resistance to the Escudero message to see what relevance it might have to his own history of heart attacks. But he's also well aware that Escudero has invented an impressive, though obscure, vocabulary. Escudero has christened his medical approach noesitherapy.
What is noesitherapy?
Noesitherapy means healing by thinking. From the Greek noesis, action of thinking, start on own thoughts. And noesiology, the science that study the effects produced in human life by our own thoughts.
What does that mean, simply? What do I do if I feel that I'm stressed and my heart's beating, pounding away, and the blood's circulating much too quickly? I know it's bad for me. I know that. But what do I do to prevent it?
We need to do two things. The first one is to think positively, because every thought is really a program in the biological computer of our brain. And second one, to have liquid saliva in our mouth, and you know that in a stressful situation, your mouth is dry.
Yeah.
But at the same time, the excess of adrenaline produced in your body starts the function of your heart. Your heart beat quicker.
Yes,
and
true.
And every beat is more expensive, biologically speaking. The opposite situation is the meaning of have liquid saliva in your mouth.
That sounds so very simple, and yet...
Certainly. Simple things, but very important in their effects.
One thing that I'm not very clear about in my own mind is whether I first think about liquid saliva, and this therefore helps me to control parts of my body, or whether having the liquid saliva there then means that I can use my brain to affect the body. Which is the most important part?
To think. It's very important that to have liquid saliva, because the necessary thing to have liquid saliva in our mouth goes far beyond that the obtention of the liquid saliva. Produces changes in our heart, in our arteries, in every one of our organs. And you are protecting, especially your heart.
Well, that sounds very good. This is really what I would like to know, because if I can do that, then presumably I can live a better quality of life.
Certainly, certainly.
Is that what you're saying?
Your head use better every necessary thing to produce his own energy. Yes.
Well, I'm sure that you understand it. I understand what you're saying. I'm not absolutely sure in my own mind that this would be the answer to my problem, for example.
In my operating theater, I need only that my patient have liquid saliva in their mouth. I'm thinking at the beginning of the surgical intervention that I have all my body anesthetized.
So how can you demonstrate? I'm sorry I'm being very skeptical about this, but I feel that I wouldn't have the confidence at the moment to be able to withstand pain just by wishing it wasn't there. How can you demonstrate to a patient like myself, for example, that this can be the case, that I can withstand pain and just not feel it?
This is very, very simple. With only one thought, you can change your own sensibility. Do you wish to do it?
Well, what would it entail?
Do you wish it?
Well, yes, but what would I have to do?
We can do it easily. If you want.
You won't cut my leg off or anything like that. I promise, not first time.
Have you liquid saliva in your mouth?
Yes, I think so.
Yes? Mm-hmm. What do you feel here?
I think I would roughly describe it as pain.
And here?
Yes, about the
Yes.
same.
Do you wish to obtain a psychoanalysis for one of your arm?
Yes, yes.
This one?
Yes.
For example?
Does it make a difference? There's no
Completely different. This one?
Yes, yes, all right.
You must repeat with me. My arm is anesthetized.
Just like that. My arm is anesthetized.
Had been difficult to do it? To repeat it?
No.
No?
Oh, it's very easy to say.
We can see that...
That hurts, yes. Yes.
Pain?
Yeah, yeah.
Have you pain, certainly?
Yes, yes, I know.
And here?
Well,
And here?
I can feel
Do you
it,
know something, but you have no pain? And here?
Yes, there's pain.
Only one thought. But do you want to change anesthesia? This condition of your arm, you are able to change it immediately. You must repeat with me. My arm recovered its normal sensibility.
My arm has recovered its normal sensibility.
Do you wish it now? Do you wish it now?
Yes.
Huh?
No. That hurt.
You have proved in yourself that with only one thought, your brain is able to change the sensibility in your body. And this is a condition of your brain, able to use it in all your body. In every moment, you need it. But you must think that you wish and you are able to do it. You can think, I wish to be anesthetized, but I don't able to do it. This is wrong. This is not the way to obtain a psychoanalysis. You must speak about your need, only about your need and your wish, your positive wish, not about your doubts. Well, right.
Escudero demonstrates to all his patients that just a matter of will can apparently also allow a most precise control over pain.
You must have liquid saliva in your mouth, please. You must repeat with me. My left arm is anesthetized.
My left arm is anesthetized.
Okay. And now with the needle. The needle, what do you feel?
Nothing.
Nothing. It's most important that you do it by yourself.
I do it?
Yes. You must do it by yourself. Take the needle. What do you feel?
Nothing.
Nothing? No. Do you know the way that your brain obeys exactly every one of your thoughts?
No, I don't.
You must repeat with me. The holes produced by the needle continue anesthetized.
The holes produced by the needle continue to be anesthetized.
But the rest of my arm recovered the normal sensibility.
But the rest of my arm recovers its normal sensibility.
What do you feel?
Pain.
Here? What do you feel here?
Pain.
Pain. And here?
Nothing.
What do you feel?
Nothing.
Congratulations. You know now the way to live better. You now know now the way to improve your health, your immunologic state. You are able now to live happier. And this is the starting with the most important preventive medicine in your life. To be happier, to learn to live.
And by not experiencing pain there, because I just don't feel anything at all there, how then do I apply this to other aspects of my life?
The same way. You must think in every moment the well-being you need and you wish. And having liquid saliva, this is easier.
Ray is being encouraged to believe that just because he may be able to control the sensation of pain, he can therefore control his immune system and so on. He thinks that Escudero's philosophy of wishing and needing as preventive medicine is attractive, but perhaps too simple. It's a view of life that Ray has been unable to put his complete faith in.
I still must admit that I find it very difficult to believe that the next time that I'm stressed, all I have to do is to think my mouth is wet and think positively, and the situation will change.
Pablo Diablo. Though he has not become one of Escudero's patients, Ray does take most seriously the underlying message of staying happy and positive in everyday life. It is possible that more suggestible patients are more willing to accept Escudero's link between the control of pain and the control of disease or disability. Escudero is certainly more than ready to expose his patients to the inquiries of other doctors. One of these three patients is a professor of radiology, Dr. Benyok Zimmerman. He became a convert to the Escudero approach when he used it to regulate the abnormal rhythms of his heart. Dr. Michael Whiteley and Dr. Amalia del Palacio have been joined here by Professor Federico Payardo, a specialist in psychiatry, hypnosis, and neurophysiology.
He's now 10 years old.
Little Jaime has a history of very severe asthma.
¿Tú te acuerdas a qué edad conociste al doctor Escudero?
Pues no sé, a los 7 años.
A los 7 años más o menos. ¿Y tú te acuerdas qué es lo que te enseñó el doctor Escudero en relación con tus ataques de asma?
Pues a dominarlos.
¿Y cómo fue eso?
Pues teniendo saliva en la boca y programándome mi cerebro.
¿Y esa programación en qué consiste?
No sé, yo pienso que yo voy a acabar de toser. Y como voy a acabar de toser, ya no voy a toser más. Y entonces nada, para un poco y para. Y cuando me afecta, pues hago eso y se me quita y ya está.
Se te quita enseguida. Y otra cosa, ¿tomas medicación ahora? Nada, en absoluto.
Pocas veces algo, pero... Vitaminas.
¿Qué?
Vitaminas.
Vitaminas.
Professor, he looks a typical asthmatic child to me. Has the frequency of attacks changed over the last 3 years?
Pregunta el doctor si en estos últimos 3 años ha variado el número de ataques, o sea, la frecuencia de los ataques.
Pues podría ser que si antes me dan 10 ataques,
10 ataques
pues ahora me dan 1.
¿Por semana o por día?
Pues 10 ataques, unos 30 ataques, no, 10 ataques por semana. Pues ahora me da 1.
In medicine, it's generally agreed that increased time and attention from any doctor, or tender loving care as it's called, can have in itself a remarkable effect on some asthmatic patients, as can family therapy and other psychological techniques too. So Jaime is not exactly a conclusive case in support of Escudero's approach.
Miguel, por favor, ¿nos podría exponer brevemente su historia?
Yo soy diabético y no había tenido nunca problemas, pero en el año 74 me apareció lo que los oftalmólogos dicen una mosca volante en un ojo. Pasé a la clínica Barraquer de Barcelona, donde me vio el doctor Calvo, especialista en retinopatías. Llega un momento que no podía ver. No veía, en un ojo veía bultos y en otro veía sombras. Y estaba a punto de ingresar en la Organización Nacional de Ciegos de Alcoy para aprender a leer. Empecé a leer braille. Y aquí ya empezaron las pruebas, me pinchó, me atravesó un brazo con una aguja gruesa, no sentí nada. Y él me programó, me dijo lo que tenía que hacer, lo que tenía que convencerme, hablarle a mi cerebro para que actuase, y poco a poco he ido mejorando, sin más medicamentos. Conduzco, tengo permiso de armas, lo tengo renovado hace poco, leo y hago una vida completamente normal ya.
¿Tuviste 20 hemorragias antes de venir aquí?
O tal vez más.
Y que al dejar de venir aquí hace 12 años ya no has tenido ninguna.
Tuve algunas al principio, pero
el primer año
han desaparecido. Ya después han desaparecido.
Ya después en 12 años no he vuelto a tener.
Dr. Escudero, how do you explain in physiological terms how your treatment has improved, Senor Camps?
Very, very important question. But I cannot do it. The physiological mechanisms, I don't know, certainly.
Perhaps related to your question, this is of course the big question, this is the question that everybody puts, is of course, which is the mechanism, which is the real physicochemical or biochemical or biophysical mechanism in that. I think this is a research question. The research question has to be answered by biochemical people, not by us. We are clinicians. But perhaps it is worthwhile to study the archives of Dr. Escudero to see a number of cases, to see events in every case, negative results, positive results.
But in the meantime, whilst possible and even dramatic clinical improvements might be connected with Escudero's positive thinking, and even associated with the presence of saliva, the evidence of the patients he presents simply cannot be regarded as solid proof.
A mí lo que me parece muy bien es que el doctor Escudero me parece muy útil, muy inteligente. Lo verdaderamente yo creo que lo verdaderamente interesante del asunto es haber encontrado el atajo. Es decir, encontrar un método tan rápido para conseguir que el sujeto que sea capaz de autoprogramarse y además reafirmarse en su autoprogramación. Les cuento una cosa que, vamos, esencialmente es mentira, saliva, pero que en cualquier caso, como es fácil de obtener, le sirve para asegurarse y entonces utilizar, y eso sí que no es terapia, utilizar positivamente su cerebro programando cosas. Ahora, creo que debe haber mayor rigor en la investigación de los casos, porque, por ejemplo, pues el caso de este señor o el caso concretamente del chico, pues está muy bien, pero es que claro, desde un punto de vista de una presentación, digamos, en un congreso, son inaceptables. Creo que se debe trabajar a niveles más científicos, más profundos.
But Escudero can always rely on his family for total support and encouragement in his work. They believe there are thousands of patients who have been helped by him and that people worldwide are inspired by his ideas.
Cuando estuvimos en Venezuela, solo con una charla que le diste a los estudiantes de medicina, hicieron aquella noche en sus guardias partos con noesiterapia.
Y que recuerdo,
Me produjo una satisfacción.
sí, recuerdo que si no...
Every member of the Escudero family has a role to play in his operating team. His wife, María Jesus, is the patient's personal companion. Escudero's son, Ángel Miguel, a medical student, is also Ángel's surgical assistant. Another medical student, Escudero's daughter-in-law, Caro Fatima, is his medical photographer. His daughter, María Jesus, is his surgical nurse. Together, they make up Escudero's constant and passionate team of collaborators. Escudero's home and clinic is also the teaching center for noesotherapy. His frequent seminars are held for medical colleagues from all over Spain. Most of them have trained with him in the past and have learned his method of handling patients. They now apply that skill in many branches of medicine. These gatherings are inevitably opportunities for them to swap clinical anecdotes about their experiences in the medical use of noesotherapy.
Allí en África, que no teníamos, no podía comunicarme, no podía decir lo que yo quería, pero sí expresar esos sentimientos que tenía dentro, sí que podían captarlos cuando realmente tenía necesidad. La noesiterapia me resulta muchísimo más fácil. Entonces, ¿cómo conseguir, por ejemplo, en una señora que tuve con tétanos, cómo conseguir que esta señora se relaje de una contracción tetánica y cómo sacar adelante, como difícil que es, que esta señora simplemente no hablaba francés, hablaba única, de manera que un poco chapurreado, ¿no? Pero que esta señora, con el pensamiento que yo estaba dándole, con las ganas que tenía de curarla yo a esta señora, eso era suficiente para llegar a conseguir lo que realmente queríamos tanto ella como yo. Yo les transmito el pensamiento y son ellos el que captan esas ganas de que la cosa salga bien, de que no sufra nadie, de que todos estemos contentos.
Fernando, has encontrado la esencia de la noesiterapia. Has transmitido tu deseo y tu deseo lo capta el paciente, entienda o no tu idioma, sea niño o mayor. Solo si es mayor, con que quiera conseguir el bien que necesita, tu deseo le ayuda a conseguirlo. Y esa es la realidad, que es más fácil conseguirlo que explicarlo.
There exists here a warm and serious regard for these reports and experiences. Perhaps the essence of noesotherapy is ethereal. Perhaps it's rather like extrasensory perception. Whatever one makes of their anecdotes, his followers also believe they need have no doubts whatsoever about the extraordinary reports from Escudero's operating theatres. Escudero has just completed an operation here with Manolo Estéez, his 660th surgical case.
¿Cómo encuentra usted que ha sido la operación y por qué ha elegido este tipo de operación?
No es la cosa de la operación quirófano. Yo esto lo veo como si fuera un bar. Además, con todos los que somos aquí, pues más bar aún. Así que el elegir la técnica esa, más que nada, es por eso, porque es que no es una operación en realidad. Es que como quitarte una chaqueta, que te da calor y te la quitas y se ha acabado. Una cosa así.
Senor Estéez has just undergone a 75-minute operation for varicose veins in his left leg. That has involved 8 large and deep incisions. Like every one of Escudero's surgical patients, he is free of pain. But how painful potentially was his operation, and exactly what preparation did it require? The observing doctors had confirmed that from the outset, Manolo had received no intervention, whether with drugs or other means.
Piensa, mi boca se llena de saliva, fluida y agradable. Cuando sientas que tienes esta saliva en la boca, me lo dices. Perfecto. Ahora simplemente escucha. La sangre circula maravillosamente por todo mi cuerpo. Cada órgano funciona en armonía con el conjunto. Especialmente mi cerebro, que obedece a cada uno de mis pensamientos. Mi pierna y todo mi cuerpo están anestesiados. Y así estarán desde ahora hasta después que me quiten los puntos. ¿Quieres enseñarme la salida? Manténla y saca la lengua más, sácala. Perfecto.
Clearly, Escudero has again used a degree of suggestion. There would seem to be a degree of suggestibility on the patient's part too, though Escudero believes that preparation is all that is required for every patient who comes to him for surgery. Of course, it may only be the suggestible ones and those who are afraid of conventional anesthetics who seek him out. But even so, the patient's preparation was simple and fast.
Yo no soy de los valientes, ojo, pero para nada. No es que sea miedoso, pero no si chulete decir eso yo, no. Yo si hace falta pasar una cosa, se pasa ahora. Si no es preciso, para afuera. Enseguida me tiro para atrás.
Ya.
Ahora, si hace falta...
¿Y por qué ha elegido usted este tipo de intervención?
Pues la elegí primero porque se la había hecho a mi mujer.
¿Y qué tipo de molestias tenía usted antes de la intervención?
Tenía las venas muy gordas por fuera.
The surgery itself is conventional. The varicose vein is either tied off or cut.
¿Cómo estás de bien? De momento muy bien. Después mejor. Después mejor. Claro, por supuesto.
Stapling the wound, as with the incision itself, must involve severe disturbance of the nerve endings in the skin. It's a reasonable assumption that any of us would normally find this a pretty painful, if not excruciating, experience.
¿Cómo se encuentra usted psicológicamente?
Pues me encuentro estupendamente bien.
Estupendo, gracias. Todos los que vienen, o sea, le llaman a usted, consiguen la psicoanestesia, pregunta primera.
Absolutamente. Todos los pacientes que yo he tratado, desde que sé cómo enseñarles a conseguir una anestesia psicológica, han sido capaces de comprobar que podían conseguirla.
Entonces usted, por ejemplo, ante la operación, ¿qué actitud psicológica ha tenido?
Pues el problema más grande que he tenido ante la operación ha sido que he tenido que animar a mis amigos.
Ya.
Darles ánimos, porque ellos me decían, che, ¿y operarte? Y che, que no tiene importancia, hombre, que eso no pasa nada, que de aquí un rato estoy aquí.
Cuéntame algo, Manolo.
No te puedo contar nada en este momento porque tengo un poquito de calor.
¿Sí?
Todos.
Vale. Pues piensa
Estamos
que
todos sudando.
nosotros tenemos hasta la nariz tapada, no hace falta con nosotros. Va. ¿La luz aquí?
¿Qué es lo que siente?
Pues en este momento estoy estupendamente bien.
Y desde que todo esto ha empezado, ¿cómo lo ha vivido usted? ¿Cómo ha sentido esto?
Pues maravilloso.
¿Cómo te va, Manolo?
Me falta, pues que echo de menos lo de detrás de la rodilla, oye.
¿Ah, sí?
Hombre.
Ah, oye, ponerle la almohada. Espera. A ver, otra almohadita para aquí. Pon un paño. ¿Qué tal?
Muy bien.
Vale. Todas estas intervenciones que implican varios millares de incisiones quirúrgicas, no hemos registrado ni un solo caso de infección operatoria, sin usar antibióticos en ninguno de estos casos. Mueve la pierna, levántala, dobla la pierna, levántala, tírala, bájala. ¿Podemos vendar ya?
Senor Estéas, throughout his operation, has had his wife Consuela by his side. She had become a passionate believer in Escudero's philosophy when she went through a similar operation to Manolo some years ago, and when Escudero also treated her for chronic depression. She has persuaded her husband that he is safe in Escudero's hands and will have no side effects whatsoever.
Yo soy microbiólogo y yo no me creo sencillamente que el 0% de sus pacientes hayan no tenido infección. No lo puedo aceptar. No me lo creo, sencillamente. Y como esto parece que es una cuestión de fe, y yo no tengo fe, yo no me creo que ningún cirujano del mundo tenga un 0% de infecciones.
En este momento, aquí tienes a uno. Escudero puede decirle que no ha registrado, sin usar antibióticos, absolutamente ningún caso de infección. Es algo que a mí también me asombra.
If this is true, he is the only surgeon in the world who has no infection.
Consuelo, su marido, según he creído entender, ha venido a la mesa de operaciones durante 2 veces consecutivas basándose en la experiencia previa que usted tuvo con el doctor Escudero.
Exactamente. Yo fui a Escudero por mi depresión. Estaba muy enferma, 15 años. Para mí siempre era de noche. Siempre estaba llorando, siempre estaba desesperada. Cuando ya estaba al borde del precipicio, que dije, yo así ya no puedo vivir, no sé cómo, yo digo que Dios me iluminó. Dije, voy a ver si Ángel me puede ayudar. Estuvimos charlando, le expliqué todos mis problemas, entonces empezó a hablarme en todo el bien positivo que yo podría encontrar si ponía en funcionamiento mi cerebro, tal como él me explicaba. Entonces yo ese día, conforme me iba hablando, yo iba sintiendo una cosa maravillosa. Ya iba resplandeciéndome todo, ya. Hasta el paisaje me lo habían cambiado todo. Nada, y poquito a poquito, día a día, como si hubiese vuelto a nacer. Y un día me dijo, es que tú no sabes dónde puedes llegar. No sabes dónde puedes llegar con tu pensamiento, siempre en positivo.
Y para usted, este tipo de acción que ha recibido beneficiosa por parte del doctor Escudero, ¿usted a qué la atribuye? ¿A que él es médico o a que tiene una personalidad especial, carismática, como un gurú?
Bueno, él tiene de todo. Es un cirujano maravilloso. Es un médico estupendo. Le quiero con toda mi alma. Un amor, ya comprenderéis, porque mi marido está de acuerdo.
Sí, pero contésteme a la pregunta que le he hecho.
A ello voy. Él pone todo su alma, su amor, su ayuda, su comprensión. Entonces te habla de esa forma, comprendiéndote, ayudándote. Lo que te he dicho antes, como un maestro que te enseña. Me lo explicó. Soy como un maestro. Cuanto más aprendáis, mejor para vosotros.
Para no tener que depender de mí.
Porque a veces le he llamado para consultarle y me ha dicho, tu cerebro ya funciona lo suficiente para controlarte tú solita. A mí no me necesitas. Pero a veces, una ayudita, ¿quién no necesita una ayuda? Sí. Nadie.
Escudero believes that Consuela's experience is typical of the simple but immense power of positive thinking. He considers even skeptics must be impressed with what he can achieve by creating a new conviction in his patients. But his talent to persuade ordinary people to take control of their bodies, and maybe of their lives, does not extend to a talent to explain himself to the satisfaction of scientists and doctors. Perhaps the power that Escudero can harness is latent in everybody, but also requires a sympathetic cultural atmosphere to let it emerge. One that respects the relevance of faith as much as evidence in allowing us control over our lives. But does that mean that if we want to find new ways of exercising mind over matter, we must depend on the guidance of gurus? Or can we tap into our true potential without them?
I can remember being a boy, and I used to live in a house near some railway tracks, and our family name was Benson.
दुकान पे लिख रही है रेडियो वाला कोई कहानी पता ऊपर भैया ले गया अच्छा लिख के
could just remember playing with the dog in the fields and on the railway tracks.
Two years old. Yeah, 2 years old she was when she started about this dog, Muff, a little Fisher Price with a wiggly tail, playing out at the back one morning in the summer, and she kept saying, "Come along, Muff, come along." I said, "That's a funny name for a dog, isn't it, Nicola?" She said, "No, it's not a funny name, isn't that, Nana?" I said, "Why not?" She said, "Well, that's what they called my dog when I was here before." I said, "How do you mean when you were here before?" She said, "Oh, you don't remember, you weren't here then."
I remember having a dog, and we called it Muff. It was black and white, very friendly, and he used to play all the time.
I just thought she was weird. I just really thought at the beginning that she was just having an imaginary friend like, you know, kids do. But her story never, ever changed. And every time she told it to you, you got to know a little bit more. So, like, over the period of maybe a year, we got to know the final story.
I said, "Well, where did you live?" She said, "Oh, up there, a long way up there." I said, "Whereabouts?" She said, "Up by that railway station up there." I said, "Oh, did you?" She said, "Yes." She said, "I lived up there."
She just could remember this place in her mind that she kept talking about all the time, and I just said, "OK, you'll have to show me where it is," because I didn't have a clue where we were going. She kept saying it was over there, which is like over the other side of Valley. So we just walked and walked for ages, and we started walking up, you know, towards Haworth. We've got dog at the side of me, Nicola.
I can remember a little river or on the train lines. We used to throw sticks or a ball.
It's down there. Down where?
Down here.
It can't be down here, Nicola. There's nothing down here, it's just muck.
I knew it was somewhere around Neyman, but I didn't know where. But I knew how to get to it.
It can't be down here.
It is.
How do you know? I was amazed when Nicola sort of led me down this muck road, because, I mean, I knew area as a kid because I'd always played there. But Nicola had never, ever been there before.
I can hear it.
Can you hear it?
Yeah. Oh, look, there it is.
What did you used to do there?
I used to play in there with my dog and my friends. Come on, let's go down.
Where are you going?
Down to the river.
You can't get down there.
We went down to see if that were it, and then I started remembering.
Hurry up. If I fall, Nicola, you're for it. People think she's Barmer, and, you know, call her weird and that, but because she's my daughter, I just wanted to find out for her peace of mind as well as mine. It's all slushy and horrible.
I used to play all friends and Muff.
Where?
Over there, near that tunnel. That's where we used to play.
You played in the tunnel?
No, just out of it. Just there.
Come here. Hello. Hello. Sorry to bother you. I wonder if I could have a look at the old stone on the back of your house.
Yeah.
Why?
My nana believed me when I first started talking about it, but my mum didn't. My teachers didn't believe me, and I don't think any of my friends did, but I don't think they understood when, because we were only little.
And you told me to give up encouraging her, didn't you? She said that I were encouraging her, and I weren't, because she was quite willing to tell all this without any encouragement.
She just seemed to think that because she could remember a previous life, we should remember it as well.
And that's it, that's the fireplace.
That used to be a fireplace.
And I can remember a door being here.
What's that now? What sort of door?
When we were not, my mum used to put us down there.
That wasn't very nice, was it?
I don't know.
They'd concreted over this, like, trapdoor thing on the floor, but she could remember being put down there when she was naughty. Who did you go down with?
Nobody. If you were naughty on your own, you used to go down there on your own.
And then when we looked round, she sort of came to end and she went really, really quiet. I knew she was frightened about something, but she wasn't actually saying. And then when we came out of the garage, she said, you know, when I went in there, I said, yes. She said, well, I saw a rocking chair. And I said, you imagine, you know, was it in your mind? She said, no, it was actually there. I saw this vision of this rocking chair by the fire.
मेरे 3 बालक हैं और 3 बालिका हैं। मेरे पास 6 बच्चे हैं। टीटू सबसे छोटा बालक है मेरा। 2.5 साल की उम्र में ये बालक ये बताता था कि मेरी माँ का नाम राजकुमारी है, मेरी बहू का नाम उमा है, मेरे पापा जी का नाम चंदा भारती है। तो हम लोग इस पे शक करते थे। हम पूछते थे कि हम कौन हैं, तो ये बताता था कि हम तुम्हारे घर के नहीं हैं।
अब जी पूर्व जन्म की बात बता रहे हो, तो अब ये दुख तो हमारे भयो ना हो। हमें तो अच्छा लगे कि क्या कहते हैं जी, हमारे यहाँ आएगा अच्छे घर को, हमारी भी अच्छी परिवस्था हैगी, तो भी आनो जानो बुनते रिश्ता बनेगा हमारा। जी बोले मम्मी, हम बोले जाते मन के बेटा तुम कहा कहते हैं हमारे यहाँ पैदा भैया जन्म लेके आई हो। फिर बोले मम्मी आपको धोखा दे के नहीं जाऊंगा मैं, मेरे यहाँ मैंने तुम्हारे यहाँ जन्म लो है, तो मेरे तो कहा कहते हैं तुम माँ बाप हो और भी माँ बाप हो।
साधारण तो है और बहुत ही साधारण है, बच्चों में खेलता है कूदता है, लेकिन कभी कभी ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि ऐसे काम भी कर डालता है जो कि बड़े बड़े हम लोग इस उम्र पे भी नहीं कर सकते।
जी बोलो हम तो अपने घर भी जाएंगे, तुम पे कितने किलो लौट रहे हम पे जा पाए। हम तो अगर हमारी दुकान है, अगर हमारे बच्चा है, हम तो कम छुड़ाई तो आने आएगी नंगा तो अगर लाइन में मेरी दुकान है टीवी रेडियो की। रोनू सोनू ने लल्लू को नाम है बच्चों को, उमा में बहू है।
तो खाने में रीशा टीवी रेडियो वीडियो सब चीज है।
इनकी दुकान है वो
मेरी मेरी आसान भाई कोठी मेरी है। कपूरा भाई पैसे ले ले, कपूरा पैसे छुड़ांगो राजी बा कोठी है भाई कपूरा भाई है पापा लेके जाओ।
Never even thought that she lived before me. You didn't think about it then, did you?
Well, you don't really think about things like that, I know, because it's not a natural thing, you know, but I mean, it's just one of these things that when it does happen, you've got to listen, you've got to put down what you're doing and listen to it.
I think it was names more than out though, wasn't it?
Well, yes, it were when she started with the name.
I can remember my mum, and she used to always wear black or grey, dark colours. And my dad always had a mucky face when he came home. I can remember there being a big railway track, big field behind it, and a river beside it. And if you went across, sort of like a muck road, that's where my friend used to live.
Yeah, now I know. Don't go in there, Nicola. Somebody lives there.
Come on.
She could remember her friends living there. I mean, I actually never knew it were there. Because when you're passing out lane, you don't even see that part. You know, from a distance, you don't see it. It's sort of like hid down behind a wall.
Yeah, this is it, Mum. I'm sure this is it.
You sure?
Yeah. I can remember all along that wall, I think there were lights, like brackets coming out and up.
Remember what else?
No, it's just about it, just them lights on that wall.
And it would always, she always seemed to have a dog with her. Wherever she went, this dog would always there. Well, that must have been a playmate, you know, like kids have, you know, imaginary friends and that. And she'd had this dog. From being really, really small, even like when she was still sat in a pram, she would never, ever, at our station, there's like an old wooden bridge that goes up to get to the other side. She would never, ever go over there. She used to scream all the way over. And then when she started walking, she would, as soon as she knew that she were going up there, she just stopped in her tracks and she wouldn't move. And my dad used to have to carry her, screaming all the way over.
Come on,
Where are you going? She was just frightened at trains, all steam.
just...
You're not supposed to be on them tracks.
Come on.
She just wouldn't go near them at all.
Come on, Kim.
Where were it?
See where them white signal posts are?
Yeah.
Well, just a bit up from, just a bit down from there, that's where I can remember a man swinging a lamp and I can remember a train.
Is that all? What happened then?
I can't remember.
मेरे घर वालों ने ये फैसला किया कि मैं आगरे जाकर पता करूं कि जो मेरा छोटा भाई टीटू बोलता है वो सच है कि नहीं। सुरेश रेडियो की दुकान मुझे वहाँ मिल गई और वो वाकई एक विधवा उमा की थी जिसके पति का कुछ साल पहले खून हो गया था और उसके 2 लड़के भी थे जैसे टीटू बताता था।
ये अजीब सा तो लगा ही मेरे को। फिर मैंने कहा लगा के चलो देखें बातें क्या हुई, कैसे हुई, क्या करना है, चलना है, सोचते रहे। फिर घर गई मैं शाम को। मैंने फिर पेरेंट्स लोगों से कहा कि ऐसे ऐसे बात है। वो लोग बोले कि चलो सुबह ही चलते हैं। सुबह 7 बजे गई वहाँ।
जी बाबू जी नहा रहे नल पे और टीटू बोलो कि पापा जी मेरे तो घर वाले आएंगे, तुम अभी नहा ही रही हो नल पे।
उमा उमा आई, पापा जी आए, माता जी आई, सब आए।
तो ये हम द्वार पे बैठा दे सगरे और टीटू बड़ा हिलो मिलो जब तो बहुते बोलो कि मम्मी जी खाट पे बैठी है यहाँ और बुला जाते 2 बात करूँगा उमा से। उमा झट नहीं आई गई और टीटू बोले उमा ते तेने में पहचान लो कि ना पहचानो। तो बोली कि वो पता ना पहचाने कि रोनू सोनू कहाँ पढ़ रहे हैं कि घर ही बैठे हैं। अब वो बोली कि मैंने तो धुन में डाल दी, दोनों बच्चे डाल दे धुन। तो जी बोलो कि अच्छा कि मैं पहचान कर अच्छी तरिया कि मुँह पर ना पहचान नहीं कि हम धौलपुर दीदी के यहाँ गए कि माँ दोनों रोनू सोनू को लेके साथ मेला करने के लिए, तो तुमने कहा कि तुम्हें जलेबी खवाई हमने तो अब वो चाहे चुप है।
जी मेरा फोटो है सुरेश का पहले का ये जे आपको है तो कुछ का उड़ी गई जगह
यही है साहब, उसे अपनी याद है। ले
क्या भाई मम्मी को है और जी उमा को है।
मैं गंदी मैं धोती पैर के बाहर साड़ी आ जाती कहीं तुम तो मम्मी मेरी उमा तो 2,000 की साड़ी पहनती है, तुम गंदी धोती से बाहर मत जाओ करो। हम भगवान ज्यादा हैं, तुम मम्मी गरीब हो, हमें ना अच्छा लगा तू कबो के तो काचन को मकानों में हो मैं यहाँ दिल ना लगा तू चट जाए मार दिन तक ये वाला लगता जो कि तुम तो आगे जाओ मैं ना भैया तू आगे जाओ बता हमारी जान न पहचान कहाँ जाओ आगे कि ना मैं ना उठे तो आई झट झोला अपने छोटे छोटे कपड़ा भरे और झट चल लें तो जी।
Main Street of Haworth.
We wanted to sort of find some records of this little boy existing. So we went to Haworth Parish Church because that area that Nicola could remember living would probably come under the Haworth boundary.
What was the name?
Benson.
What sort of date?
I'd say about 1850 onwards.
Baptism?
Mm-hmm.
Let's have a see. This is one that you can look in. See what was it you're wanting it for? What?
It's just, we're just trying to trace the family of Bensons that lived before. Right, we're going to have to try and find just that's the same. So we just sort of started off there. It was just like potluck, really. We didn't know what to find, whether we'd find anything.
You go down that one. Not very good.
I mean, we didn't even have an idea what year we were looking for. We just sort of started off at 1850s and sort of went from there. Spins, yeah. Benson, you just have to watch it because it probably won't be able to see it right good.
There's a Bailey.
It's Ferdinand, that one. And Charlotte what Benson?
Mm-hmm.
Can't remember your first name.
Yeah. Oh, that's Benson.
Is that you?
Yeah.
Can't you remember your first name?
John Henry.
We were quite surprised when we did find a Benson. You know, because we weren't expecting to find anything at all.
1875, 26th of June.
But there was just one Benson in the book, and it just happened to be John Henry Benson. Yeah, that's just where they lived, Harcliffe. That's his plate there, that must have been his job. What's the plate there?
I don't know. I seen him, and I saw a train, and then I can't remember anything after that.
God, this graveyard is massive, Nicola. I didn't realise it was this big.
Never going to find it, there's loads.
We wanted to see if there were a grave, see if we could find if he had sort of been buried in Haworth Parish Church because he was baptised in that sort of register. So we went round the graveyard, which was quite big. You know, we just couldn't find a Benson grave at all. There were no Bensons in.
That one in it.
No. Somebody suggested go to the library, ask them for a list of monumental inscriptions for old graveyards that are no longer used. So we went to the library and Ian Dewhurst gave us this list of monumental inscriptions. There.
John Henry Benson or John Henry Fletcher, because it doesn't say either, it just says grandson of Henry and Mary Fletcher. John Henry.
Ludwig Branson and Henry Mary Fletcher. They woke up on the 17th, 1870. It's 2 years and 11 months. We found John Henry's grave, but we found that he was buried with his grandparents, Henry and Mary Fletcher. So we wanted to find out if it was the same John Henry Benson that was actually in this grave. But if he were a Benson, then he should have been in the Benson grave. To do this, we had to find out if his mother's maiden name had been Fletcher. I feel weird. I don't. It's weird. Quite weird.
When we found John Henry's grave, I didn't feel funny or anything. I didn't feel weird because it wasn't me that were in there.
We went back to the library because we knew that John Henry had been born in 1875 and we wanted to find out more about his parents.
How are you getting on?
Not right well.
Can't find
I don't
anywhere.
actually how to use it, actually.
No, well, this is giving you the names of the streets,
Right.
but of course not the names of the people. Do you know where they were living?
We think it might be Haworth area.
Ah, well, you see, you're still in Bingley and Morton, so we can take this on. Sunderland, Riley, Lund.
So we looked on the 1871 census to see if his mother had in fact been a Fletcher.
You can spend... now then, look. Henry Fletcher,
Fletchers.
here, we're on wife Mary, daughter Susie.
Susie. Yeah.
Susie, daughter there, aged 20.
So that'd be his mother.
So they're living on Brook Row. It doesn't give the numbers of the
Where's
houses.
Brook Row?
It's down by the railway. Well, down by the railway line, Worth Valley Railway. Let's just keep looking to see who else there is on this part of the census. Brook Row. Just run along Brook Row again, going the other way. Ah, well, there's your Benson, look, Thomas Benson.
So that means that both his parents must have lived on Brook Road before they got married.
Thomas Benson, father and son. So, in other words, both the Fletchers and the Bensons are neighbours on Brook Row then in 1871.
The life that Nicola has now is a lot similar to the one that she would have as John Henry, because he was born before his parents were married, and then he went to live with grandparents, which is what happened with Nicola. She was born before I got married. Then I married a father and he died, and we came back to live with my mum, so she was with grandparents again.
We've got two old maps here. This is the 6-inch Ordnance Survey of 1850, and this is the 1908 25-inch to the mile of the Haworth to Oakworth section. Now,
Which one would be better?
well, I think this one tells you each individual house. Do you know where Brook Row is, though?
No.
Oh, well, let's have a see. I think there's something here that should tell us. It's the street directory. Brook Row, Mytholm's Lane. It's a part of Mytholm's Lane,
I
you
don't
see,
know.
which is coming down from Haworth.
That's when it all started falling into place. All the things that she said were all coming to light. So it's somewhere along that
So
road.
it's somewhere along this area is Brook Row, yes.
Well, I know where Mytholm's Lane is, and there's a row of houses at the bottom. And when Nicola, even before she started talking about all this, saying she lived before, we was going past in car, and she said, "Oh, that's where I used to live." And I said, "Oh, yeah, Nicola, you know, like you do," just sort of taking it in conversation. But she'd actually said that she lived there, but we didn't think out about it because she hadn't even started saying that she lived before then. Mytholm's Lane, it's quite a steep hill. When you get to the bottom, there's a row of tourist cottages, which is known as Brook Row. Across from these cottages, there's like a river, but you don't actually see the river. You don't know it's there, you know, until you sort of get quite close to it. And directly at the back of these houses, there's an old railway track.
आजा भाई टीटू, इधर आजा।
इधर आ जा।
इधर आ भाई, करो नमस्ते।
कहाँ मम्मी कहाँ?
बता दे, नमस्ते कर दे सबसे। हैं? घर है ना? बता दे इनको, बता दे, बैठ जा। बैठ के
सोनू को बता दो।
सोनू को बता दो। वहाँ बैठ के बताओ या बता दे, बता दे। आजा इधर, आजा इधर से।
किसका फोटो है?
नाम
किसका है फोटो?
फोटो है?
नाम क्या है? कब खिंचवाया था ये? कब खिंचवाया था?
हमारे तो पहले भी चलाए।
अच्छा, काय के लिए?
ये सोचा कि 80% अपना बच्चा है ये, और 20% जरा सकता मुझे उसके ऊपर। जब भी मेरी तबीयत 2-4 बार मेरे घर पर भी मेरे पास आया वो, और चिपट गया मुझसे, और मुझे छोड़कर नहीं जाता कहीं पर ही। वो बड़ी मुश्किल से मैं अपना उसके पीछे छुड़ाता हूँ। एक बार फिर वो आया, गली में जा रहे थे, हमारी पुरानी नौकरानी मिल गई माया। तो माया ने तो समझा ये बच्चा यही है, सोनू है या टोनू है। तो उन्हें क्या सोनू से उसे बिगड़ गया उससे। वो तो मुझे पहचानती नहीं है, मैं कौन हूँ कहीं।
इनको देख भी तो लो।
तो हमारी ये जिज्ञासा हुई कि इसके बालक जब ये कहता रहता था कि कौन से हैं, तो हमें कहा देख तो लिया जाए कि कौन से हैं। हम लोगों ने तो कभी देखा नहीं था। तो हमने इनके घर पहुंचने के बाद उन्हें सूचना दी कि आप अपने बालक, पड़ोसियों के बालक और इनके सभी बालकों को एक झुंड में बैठा दीजिए। जब हमने कहा कि आप ये बताइए कि रोनी सोनी कौन से हैं जिनके लिए आप रोज कहते रहते हो, तो ये हमारी गोदी से उठा और दोनों रोनी सोनी दोनों बालकों को पकड़ लाया।
ये तुमसे बड़े कैसे हो गए? तुम तो छोटे हो।
मैं तो काम जिंदे पहले बड़ा हो।
कैसे?
पहले बड़ा हो।
पहले बड़े थे?
तो क्या हुआ?
छोटे कैसे हो गए?
मैं जन्म लाए हो।
कहाँ लिया जन्म?
बाद में।
तो छोटे हो गए, अब बड़े कैसे होना है?
बड़ा तो पी के ताकि
बाप बेटे के संबंध है, आता है हमसे प्रेम करता है, मुझसे प्रेम करते हैं अच्छी प्रकार से। खिलाते पिलाते नहीं उसे ज्यादा, इसलिए और नहीं कि वो उन्हें परेशान घर वालों को बहुत ज्यादा करता है। मैं करता क्या, उन्हें ज्यादा परेशान करता है वो।
करवाया खुदाई होगी? खुदाई कराया?
नहीं कहा मैं तुम्हारे घर गया कहा
कितना? हाँ
तब तो खुद ही होने लगा।
अच्छा, आपका खुदवाया? आपको कब खुदवाया?
अब खुदवा नहीं।
कब? कब?
कल यार खुदवा ली हूँ तो लेकर आए हो। आ रहा हूँ मतलब ले लेंगे।
अच्छा,
आ रहा तो ले ली हूँ।
ठीक है।
गड्ढा में ऐसा नहीं जो गड्ढा खोद रहा वहाँ में रखा।
गड्ढे में रखा हुआ है वो?
नहीं, सांझ भाई कोठी में।
तो फिर चला जाने चला
किसको?
गाँव चला चला।
घर में कौन रहे हो?
कोई नहीं,
कोई नहीं रहे हो।
और आज भी हम लोग ये पाते हैं कि उसे हमारे घर से कोई प्यार नहीं है। माँ को माँ नहीं समझता है, पापा को पापा नहीं समझता है, भाइयों को भाई नहीं समझता है, और हमेशा इसी रट में लगा रहता है कि मैं आपके यहाँ तो दिन काट रहा हूँ।
तो पूरा दूसरा है, मेरा तो पहले लगते सब ऐसे लगते।
और
अल्लाह दवा दिलाना
ऊपर से नीचे से
और मिलना थे जी तो पहले
कौन है? मेरे को ये लगता है कि मेरे हस्बैंड ने जन्म लिया है, मगर मानते भी हैं, मगर जाते भी हैं, सोचते भी हैं। उससे ज़्यादा फिर कोई मकसद ही नहीं रहता है। काफ़ी दूर का फासला है, तो इसलिए मतलब ये सोचा है कि है तो जन्म तो हो ही गया, बस कि वो मिलते रहेंगे, जाते जाते रहेंगे। और क्या
I think she was about 3 because she hadn't started school. She wasn't watching telly at all until she saw this scene, and it was just such a long track, you know. This fella was going to throw himself off, and as soon as she saw it, she just.
I really panicky.
Just
she did
shift,
right effort
right?
to get her breath. I think it was like you would if you were, something dreadful.
It was like an
was
asthma
going to
attack.
happen,
You know, like somebody having an asthma attack, and they're trying to get the breath, and they're sort of fighting for the breath, and they just can't get it back. She was like that, but as soon as we turned telly off, she just gradually sort of calmed down and got her breath back, and she was okay. John Henry must have had a very unpleasant death at his room in Brook Row. And at the age of 3, which is the age John Henry died, Nicole had a similar attack. And it was quite unnerving, you know, just to see her in this attack, because we didn't actually know what it was. I feel right frustrated in a way because we can't go back in time to see what John Henry's lifestyle would have been like. Just to sort of see, you know, if he had a happy childhood or not for a bit of time that he were here.
हम तो सर हैरान हैं इसलिए कि ये अपने को नहीं बदला, और जब मान लो बड़ा हो गया तो उसके बाद में हम लोगों से संबंध ही बिल्कुल खत्म कर देगा। बहुत बड़ा ममता आती है ना कि अपना बालक होते हुए ये सारी कहानी, जबकि हम वैज्ञानिक युग के होते हुए इस बात को बिल्कुल नहीं मानते, लेकिन आज प्रत्यक्ष रूप में देख रहे हैं। स्वामी जी बाहर आइए आप। नमस्ते जी। ये मेरे घर एक ऐसा बालक आया है, कभी कहता है मेरे गोली मारी, कभी कहता है मेरे माता पिता तुम नहीं हो, कभी कहता है मुझे हॉस्पिटल ले जाने के बाद में शमशान भूमि ले गए, शमशान भूमि में आग लगा दी, आग लगाने के बाद में लोगों ने पानी डाल दिया और पानी डाल के मुझे यमुना में फेंक दिया। तो हमें ऐसा प्रतीत होता है कि पुनर्जन्म की या कोई विशेष बातें हैं, हमें समझा सकोगे आप?
ऐसा है, जन्म होने के बाद में बाल्यावस्था, युवावस्था, प्रौढ़ावस्था जो ये बनी रहती है, इसी तरीके से हमारे देहांतर जन्म जन्मांतर चलते हैं और ये अखंड रूप से चलता रहेगा। जिन व्यक्तियों की आकस्मिक मृत्यु हो जाती है उन व्यक्तियों को अखंड रूप से सत्ता का ज्ञान पूर्व जन्म का बना रहता है।
ये सारी बातें इसे कब तक याद बनी रहेंगी?
ये निरंतर बना रहेगा, इसका
नहीं भूल पाएगा तो हमारे लिए तो बड़ी दिक्कत खड़ी होगी।
नहीं, ऐसा है, आहिस्ता आहिस्ता आपका प्रेम प्यार और आपका लालन पालन सामाजिक प्रभाव जब इस पर पड़ेगा तो उसका जरूर असर पड़ सकता है कम और बेश के अंदर, मगर सत्ता का ज्ञान निरंतर बना रहेगा।
टीटू बलबीर ने गोली मारी, तुम क्या कर रहे थे? बता बता जल्दी बता। तू कहाँ जा रहे हो? इधर हुआ जा।
गए तो खोल दे भाई, रानू तो में आता गए ऐसा कोने खाली मार दे।
तो वहाँ कोठी के पास ही पहुँचे थे, 2-3 हॉर्न दिए थे, उसमें हम निकल के आए और भी आदमी थे, बल्कि वो निकल के आए। जब तक मतलब काफ़ी जोर से आवाज़ आई थी और उस आवाज़ में सबने कहा कि सुरेश की गाड़ी की स्टेपनी ख़राब हो गई है, मगर जब गोलियों की आवाज़ थी, बाहर निकल के देखा तो मैंने कहा अंदर आई है, तो आई नहीं। मैंने अब सोचा कि इस कंडीशन में कभी आते भी नहीं है। मैं गाड़ी के पास गई और मैंने ऐसा लगा तो हाथ पकड़ के, तो मेरी सीधी चीख निकल गई किसी ने गोली मारी है।
सुरेश वर्मा की ऑटोप्सी रिपोर्ट से पता चलता है कि गोली सिर के दाएं तरफ पे लगी। रिपोर्ट से यह भी पता चला कि जख्म कितना गहरा था और उसका कान से कितना फासला था। हैरानगी की बात है कि टीटू के सिर पे एक जन्म निशान है, जो रिपोर्ट के मुताबिक उसी जगह पे है जहां पर सुरेश को गोली लगी।
I think everybody wants to think that you've lived before, or that there is something after you die. I mean, I didn't even really think about it that much, but with Nicola, I do.
All right, Doris?
Very good, thank you.
Good, lovely. How are you?
How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
Oh, that's nice
Unless
to
you
know.
tell me different, of course, Doris. Now, when did you first know about your gift?
Well, I thought everybody was the same. So, obviously, I was born with it. But it first developed, really, when I was about 14 or 15, seriously. And then I began to work in a purely social way, never professional. And, of course, healing was most important to me because I am a healer, too.
I see. So that was the start of it, really?
Yes.
Same route everybody goes, amateur,
oh, yes.
semi-professional?
And get turned over, of course.
Oh, you get turned over?
Oh, yes.
Oh, I wouldn't mind being turned over. Or maybe I wouldn't, actually.
Well, you know what happens when people want to exploit you and tell you they're going to do so much good for you. People think you make a lot of money, you know. I'd like to remember the years when I worked for many, many years without any fee at all. But it was very good for me because I had a husband who kept me. So that was the difference.
Yeah, and he's with us tonight, is he?
Oh, yes, he is somewhere in the audience.
That just came to me. I just thought... I've got Doris's husband's here.
So you've got the same feeling?
Well, I don't know if I've got the same feeling. I mean, how does anybody know that if they've got the gift that you have of being able to...
Well, the reason that I started doing public theatres was to interest the younger generation because half of my audience that come are under 40. And there's 2,000 people in the theatre. And I'm very, very pleased because it interests them. You see, I began in a very hard world when I was looked upon as peculiar. But many, many people come up to me who are 20. They've got my gift and they don't know where to go to be trained.
Right.
And that's our trouble. We haven't got places to go to be trained.
We can't really train a medium, can you?
Oh, yes, you can. Now, you might become a pianist, but you might never be a concert pianist.
Oh,
but you can
Trevor
play
knows
the
what that
scales.
feeling's like, you know. He's up to book 3 now.
People are psychic.
Are they?
Oh, yes.
And they don't realise it?
I'm not special, but I worked at my gift and developed it.
Yeah,
And
and
that's-
also the delivery of it as well.
Oh, well, that comes with experience.
Yeah.
But I do come from a family of theatrical people, so that probably helped me a little bit.
So who have you worked with over the years? You know, who have you consulted?
Well,
or-
I was Peter Sellers' psychic till he passed the spirit world, Frankie Howard, Michael Bentine. Many people fly from all over the world to me. I try to condense my life now, because after all, I should be 76 in February, and I like to not do quite so much.
Now, can I, just back to what you actually do? I mean, we have an audience here tonight, and would you see something in somebody?
Yes,
Would
I
you-
can,
would
but
there-
I'd like to, first of all, to say something to you.
Oh.
Because when I came through to you today, and I didn't want to tell you, but you stopped me, so I've got to tell you this. I had a gentleman who built at the back of you. Now, he wasn't family, but I should think he was, I felt, an old gentleman. When I say he was old, well, I'm 75 or 6, and I don't believe I'm old, so it's a difficult thing to say.
Yeah.
And he said to me, he called you son or boy, and I felt that you might have, he worked for you at one time, because I felt that you had either helped him or he'd worked for you, because he said to me, I'm so proud of what the boy has done. He didn't say Michael, he said boy. Now, you either called him Pa or Pop, because that's what I felt. And he said to me, will you tell him I'm still one of the firm? He didn't say anything else. I'm still one of the firm. He said, and I want my dues. I'm so grateful for what he did for us. Can you understand this?
Well, the only one that oh God, you thrown me a bit now.
That's all right, don't worry. But the main thing is, he's been with me all the afternoon, and he's so determined that I would give it to you. He wouldn't let me escape. He said, he was a very determined man.
He didn't take my bike, did he? Not him. No, seriously, the only one I can think of that I felt like that about is the only man that ever did anything like that to me. I mean, my dad left home when I was 11, so that was another story. It wasn't him.
No, it wasn't your father, but I felt you would have either called him Pa or Pop, and he would have referred to you as boy or son.
Well, if ever I did, you know, as you come through the business, I've been struggling away for years even to get this far, whatever that's supposed to be, this far.
Yes.
But, I mean, would be Eddie, which was my father-in-law. It's considered one I treat as a dad.
He didn't say Eddie. He might have said Edward, but he didn't say Eddie.
Hmm.
Did you call him Pa or Pop? Because that's what I felt. He wasn't your father. But he's so proud of what you've achieved. But he said, I'm still one of the firm and I want my dues. Do you understand? I don't know what he wants.
No, I think he wants me just to keep an eye on the business and not spend so much bleeding money.
That's it.
Because he was very strict. He was very strict.
Very strict with money.
He wasn't strict with me, but he was very strict. He was a wonderful man. But the way he ran the business, he set it up, and he made me take wages and not spend it.
He was a very caring man, I think, a very lovely man.
He taught me to only be interested in the career and not worry about money so much. Anyway, let's get back to you. That's what we're talking about you. It's very kind of you, and it's thrown me a bit, to be quite honest.
Well, it's normal to me, you see, because, you know, it's like breathing to me. It's my life.
Yeah.
But people say to my husband, how do you live with her? Well, I live a normal life.
The way you're holding my hand, looks like he's going to go,
And my children accept me. There's no problem.
Yeah, and you're happy?
Oh, very happy. And I'm not afraid to die.
No.
When it's my time, I should go. But I've got a lot of work to do yet.
All right. Well, we thank you very much indeed, and thanks for letting me have get back in contact with Eddie. I miss him dreadfully.
Well, he's one of the firm. Now, don't miss him, because he's one of the firm.
Yeah, well, he can send the VAT receipts back
That's
in.
it.
Doris Stokes. My next guest...
They're on the busy side. Will you tell me what you mean? Just that, yeah. I'm on your side, but I feel sorry for the fella who was worked over.
Who said he was worked over?
Oh, there must be some truth in it, mustn't there? Otherwise he wouldn't have made a complaint.
Look, this fella had done armed robberies. He put one of the lads in Aussie for weeks.
And that makes it all right, does it?
I didn't say that.
All right. Best of luck with it all, eh?
Are you sure it's a wind-up?
Oh, I've told you he's not German, he's English.
Oh, the rotten swine. I wouldn't have known what to say to him if he was.
Well, it's all right, OK. Come on then, you two. Grab yourselves a drink, come through, he'll be here in a minute. There he is now. Can't beat his Germans for punctuality, can you? Now, start practicing. Guten Abend, mein Herr. Danke. Don't mention the war. There you go. Here's your wine. Cheryl, this is Martin.
Hello. I've heard a lot about you.
You said he was...
Come on then, you two. Klaus is dying to meet you.
Come on, Terry.
Fooled you. All right.
Sue.
I'm sorry, I've got to go. Sorry. Sorry.
Sue!
evening, pest.
What have Ben Elton and the Eurythmics got in common?
Plenty of that, eh?
Baby, you're just overblown.
Tommy, go! Tommy, go! Tommy, go!
Cut me down when I'm talking to you.
Nottingham Forest 3. Charlton Athletic, 0. Oxford Fatty Maxwell United 2. Well, watch football, peeps.
No, it's not Match of the Day. It's Friday Night Almost Live. Tonight, 10:15 on 4.
Well, next tonight we're showing Godley and Cream's first documentary for television. The assassination of an American president in Dallas 25 years ago produced shockwaves which still reverberate around the world. Who stood to gain from Kennedy's death? And why is the truth about what really happened still emerging? Dispatches tries to answer these key questions in a few minutes.
What is this ting called, love?
Oh, HP Fruity.
Oh.
It gives everything a tang.
When the day starts a little too soon and you feel you could sleep till noon, he knows what it'll take to get you away. Maxwell House in your cup. Get the Max. It's the great way of waking up. Get the Max. Maxwell House is the way to the taste of today. Now what's all that noise? Well, boys will be boys. Get the Max.
Maxwell House. Get the taste, get the Max.
Epson, computers worldwide.
The art of stir-fry from Knorr. Now you can transform a bit of chicken and some veg into chicken 5 spice for 4. From a few prawns and a pepper, you can make a feast fit for an emperor. And turn everyday ingredients into authentic Chinese cuisine. The art is yours with new stir-fry recipe sauces from Knorr.
The worlds of Foster and Allen, their first solo double album with 30 songs of love and tenderness from Stylus.
When you tumble dry, are you using the right fabric softener?
I use a liquid softener in the washing machine.
I use bounce in the dryer.
Ah, my things are soft.
Mine are too.
My liquid, she reduces static link.